Hello, good morning, and welcome to the AM show. I'm Sweetie Abochi.
And I am Samuel Kojo Brace. You know what? In life, you have to be grateful for something. Sometimes we take the little things for granted, but remember that those little things cumulatively, come together to give us the bigger things that we look for in life. Good Sweetie, what are you grateful for this morning?
I'm grateful that I woke up easy today.
Okay.
I'm grateful that I have life. I'm grateful that I've been co-hosting the AM show for 1 whole year. And I'm also grateful for clarity on purpose. Okay. Now I have a very clear picture on what my life will look like in the next couple of years. I didn't have that before, so I'm grateful for that. Okay. And what are you grateful for?
Like you said, I'm grateful for life.
Yeah.
Life is everything that like they say, if you have life, you have everything. Some people may be down today, but they forget that tomorrow would be their day. Like they say, God changes lives in seconds, So if yours is not today or not this hour, yours could be in the afternoon. Yeah. Yours could be in the evening. So wherever you are, whatever level you are, thank God for where you are. And that gratitude will open doors. So they say gratitude is even bigger than a lot of things that we look for. So be grateful for where you are and what you are, and things will be fine.
And trust God at the end of the day that you will arrive on your time, because it's your time. Don't let the pressures of this world stress you. But now let's tell you what we have in store for you this morning. Of course, we'll start by serving you the AM news. And then after that, Dr. Paul Grebwachidankwa, he is former spokesperson on governance and security. And Gideon Tete, he's legal practitioner and member of the NDC. Both gentlemen joining us to review the newspapers and the stories captured in there that resonates with you and I. And then, of course, Muftan Abil Abdullahi brings you AM Sports. Kojo will tell you about our big story.
Well, so after the sports, we'll bring you the big stories. And 21 African heads of state with international guests, including 3 vice presidents, 4 ministers, and 24 envoys were all present in the country for President John Dramani Mahama's swearing-in ceremony, demonstrating a huge diplomatic applause for Ghana's democratic transition. But what really does a visit of these African international dignitaries mean for our foreign policy and security and John Dramani Mahama's potential role in geopolitical space? You know what? On that day, he gave a hint of what exactly he will be doing, but we'll be examining what this really means for his role in a geopolitical space, in the global space. And this morning, we speak to a security consultant who provides bespoke services in risk assessment, analysis, and forecasting, and also speak to a former senior UN diplomat at Executive Office of the UN Secretary General and the UNDP Africa Bureau.
Folks, you want to join us from now till 10 a.m. because it's a power-packed show this morning with Kojo and I. And also join the conversation via social media across all platforms. We are Joy News on TV. Don't miss any of the action this morning. Of course, I'm Sweetie Abochi, and I'm doing this with Samuel Kojo Brace. Welcome to the show. Let's start with the AM News now. Welcome to the AM News. Let's start with returning officer for Ablekuma North constituency, Vincent Obeng, who's given up on the collation process and asked the EC to look for another official to take over. This is in reaction to chaos and near fisticuffs between agents of the NPP and the NDC, which nearly marred the collation process on Wednesday. The EC has suspended the process after authenticating 4 out of 7 outstanding polling stations until further notice. James Aveji tells us more in this report.
The Electoral Commission has yet again suspended the collation of results for Ablekuma North constituency. You would recall that on Monday, they have been able to authenticate some 13 out of the 20 outstanding polling stations. But just before the process could kickstart today, the NDC constituency organizer for Ablekuma North, Musa Kalami, raised some concerns accusing the EC of not telling the truth to the public when he says all 13 polling stations had been authenticated on Monday.
Some of the POs, when they met the returning officer, they told the returning officer they can't confirm the figures on the scanned pink sheet of MPP. The returning officer of Ablekuma North, Mr. Obin, came in front of you, the media, and told you all the 13 POs that they brought here confirmed the figures on the pink sheet. I am now going to introduce or bring in a PO who came in the last time and said he did not confirm the figures on the pink sheet.
The presiding officer for the polling station in question have also been telling his side of the story.
No, I didn't, because there were some figures on it and some handwritings weren't mine. That's what I told the returning officer when I came last Monday.
Handwritings on the pink sheet wasn't
figures, and some part of the handwritings wasn't mine. That's what I told the returning officer. That was what happened on Monday.
You feel the handwritings, the writings were manipulated?
I can't say. I just know it's not mine. So I don't know like where from.
What about the signature?
The signature was mine. The name was mine too. The name was mine. The signature was mine.
So you did not authenticate it?
No, I didn't authenticate it because I told the returning officer.
The EC kick-started the process to authenticate the coalition pink sheet of some 7 outstanding polling stations. But in the middle of the coalition process, there was chaos.
How the NDC organizer did on the 8th of December in Ablekuma North, all the TV stations, you are seeing him.
So you see the police trying to make an arrest. One person is currently being pushed out of the coalition room. The other official that the police are trying to take out of the room now is the NDC organizer for the Ablekuma North constituency. The police are intervening now, asking that he's been brought back to the coalition center. But at the end of the day, the EC has been able to authenticate only 4 out of the 3 constituent polling stations. Here is the returning officer for the constituency.
We came today. We've been able to do 4 out of the 7. So we are left with 3 more. We brought our presiding officers here. 2 came, and they couldn't authenticate the statement of pool and declaration form. 1 said she can't come. So that is the 3 now. It's so unfortunate for me to make this statement that I'm done with Ablekuma North. They should find a new returning officer to continue their work for them. Thank you.
You haven't got in there. You haven't got in there.
When you call me, I don't come.
You haven't got in there. I think it is out of frustration that he's saying what he said. And I understand him, but I don't think that's the end of the road. We'll get him back. The other guy said that he can also not deny or affirm. We'll give ourselves time. There's another person who's a lady. He said that even if we bring Caterpillar, he will not come back because of what they have gone through. And my sadness is that if we are doing this to our own people, 2024 is not the only time we'll have election. We'll have election in 2028. Are we sure that we'll have dedicated people to come and serve Mother Ghana? Truth will always be the truth. So that's what I would say.
The NPP's parliamentary candidate, Ekwefree, has also been responding to what has been happening in the course of the day.
By the grace of God, truth will stand. In the first place, I appreciate the justice system that we should go and collate. And I am firm. I want to say on record that I will fight this till end because I know I won.
As it stands now, the final result cannot be declared because the EC would have to go back to authenticate the rest 3 of the outstanding polling stations. It is unclear when they will come back to do that and declare the final result. My name is James Savage, reporting for Joy News.
From that altercation at Ablekuma North, let me take you to Parliament, because there was controversy in Parliament when Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin referred to the NPP's caucus as the micro-minority. The term was first used by the NDC national chairman following the NPP losing several seats in the 2024 election. The caucus currently has 88 seats. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante reports.
There was controversy when Alban Bagbin, the Speaker of Parliament, referred the NPP minority as the micro-minority in Parliament.
But let it be known by all of you that it's part of the duty of the Speaker to protect the micro-minority.
Alexander Afenyo-Markin and his MPP group will not take kindly to that, and were on their feet. Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin protested and said his side will not take kindly to anybody referring to them as a micro-minority. He went on to claim that the NDC had been conspiring against Alban Bagbin's re-election as Speaker of Parliament.
The minority caucus hereby protests. Mr. Speaker, we protest the description given to us by Mr. Speaker. We find this unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, we seconded, the minority seconded your proposal and the motion for your election. Mr. Speaker, when the so-called majority was even conspiring against you, we protested. We stopped them from that conspiracy.
The minority leader, on behalf of the minority caucus, has objected to my describing their caucus as micro-minority caucus, and that this is a term that is unknown to the rules of the House. He is totally right. Suggestion is to the fact that it should not be formally so recognized by the records of Parliament. I agree with you. And so it should not be used by the Speaker, but it can be used by the leaders.
But the Majority Chief Whip, Kwame Governor Sagoja, indeed did also not take kindly to that allegation that they had conspired against the Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, and the order says that, and I read, a member shall not use offensive, abusive, insulting, blasphemous, or unbecoming words on a member or any other person, or B, impugn improper motives.
Please.
Other person. Mr. Speaker, my colleague suggested that the majority was conspiring against you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have it on record when the minority leader at political functions was describing you in words that can never be used on this floor, and said, Mr. Speaker, that the greatest injustice to Parliament was to elect you as Mr. Speaker. You said that on political platform. Today, a 10-quote minority leader is now pretending he loves you more than the people who actually you belong to. Mr. Speaker, hold on, Mr. Speaker. He described us as the so-called majority. Look at you this way and look at this. Is this a so-called majority? Do you describe this as a so-called majority? This is a proper majority.
This led to some back and forth in the chamber.
This is the first time President-elect has to issue a statement, more or less whipping you to nominate the president, to nominate speaker for the position of speakership. Why? And that's very revealing. It was because there were things happening at your backyard, and the president-elect picked the due intelligence. We are still aware that in this house, when we were electing you, they commandeered armed military men into this chamber in violation of the principles of democratic governance. They attacked the speaker. They attacked. Look, I'll be heard anyway. Mr. Speaker, it was an attack. It was an attack on the sanctity. Look, I will make that point anyway. Mr. Speaker, it was an attack on the sanctity of Parliament.
This has set the stage for many more controversial moments in Parliament, where the NPP really hard bent on ensuring that despite having a very small number, 88, they will not allow anyone to take them for granted, and they will always insist that their voices be heard on the floor. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, it's reopening day for basic schools across Ghana, but at the Kwashiman cluster of schools located in the Ablekuma North constituency, excitement turned to disappointment. Learners eager to resume classes were sent home instead. The reason? Their school building, partially damaged in last month's fire, remains sealed off as a crime scene. My colleague Jacqueline Ansamayabwa was at the school to capture the mood on this unexpected turn of events and reports.
By 10:30 a.m. on reopening day, the scene at the Kwashiman cluster of schools was far from typical. Instead of settling into classrooms, learners were scattered, some loitering around the schoolyard, others standing under the blazing sun, waiting in vain for answers. For all of them, the day ended the same way, being sent home.
I'm here with some students to find out more. Now, I see you with your backpack. Where are you going?
Please, I'm going home.
Why?
Please, because our school got burnt, so they told us to come to school over here. But today they said we'll close early, so that tomorrow they'll come and arrange how we'll go to school every day, because they said we'll run shifts.
This is 10. I presume you're supposed to be in class by now, but why?
Please, we are going home because they sacked us. They said tomorrow we should come. Then they'll arrange us. Yes.
And how is that arrangement going to be like?
The CISO said 6 to 12. Like some will come 6 to 12 and the others will come 12 to 3. Oh, okay. Like then that way.
Which form are you in?
Please, Form 2.
Form 2. And when you came to school, what did you find out from your teachers?
So when we came, since we already know that the school is burnt, this place was restricted. So we were taken to the senior block behind me. So we had morning lessons. Then later we were informed that we will be running shift.
Personally, are you affected by this in any way, considering the shift that your teachers are talking about? Because under normal circumstance, this would have been your school block. This is where you come for classes, but then it's closed, and now you have to use a different place where you run shift. Are you affected by this in any way?
Yeah, we are little affected because the time we used to learn, it has been decreased since we need to run shift with other classes.
The sight of confused students heading home was a heartbreaking one for many parents who had hoped the reopening would signal a return to stability.
He said the school has been burned down, so they said they should go home. I don't know the arrangement that will follow. That is why I follow up to see how the arrangement will be going. If I can take him to somewhere, then I
want to take him to somewhere?
No, I don't know, because he said the school is banned. They said they should come home. I don't know the arrangement that will follow. So I should come and make the inquiries and see whether they will get some place for them or they should go and search for school somewhere. Then earlier the better.
Public Relations Officer of the Ablekuma North Directorate of Education, Michael Austin Kublenu, says they are taking urgent measures, including reverting to the outlawed shift system to accommodate the learners in the interim.
Initially, we engage the head teachers and we are trying to engage all stakeholders to see the way forward, so that at least we can have our learners back to school to have teaching and learning. And so, as part of our engagement, we realize that since we cannot have access to the classrooms over there, there should be some alternative. We have some classrooms outside. And then we are also trying to engage the security agency, the police who are currently occupying the place, to cordon off the Millennium Block so that the rest of the classrooms over there, we can have access to them and use them to run a shift system. At least teaching and learning must continue. So,
in other news, Supreme Court Justice Emmanuel Yoni-Kulendi has raised alarm over rampant tramadol abuse in the Upper West region, particularly in Jirapa municipality. Citing recent statistics, he revealed that 80% of reported cases in the area involved tramadol abuse and urged residents to stop misusing the drug. Justice Kulendi made these remarks at the annual Dafiama Busie Issa District Students Union, the meeting in that Dafiama district. Joy News Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Dafiam.
Justice Emmanuel Yoni-Kulendi's admonishment to members of the Dafiama Bure Issa District Students Union, Dabisu National, hinged mainly on three issues which he prefers to call red lights. First was the use of narcotics, which he expressed worry over, using recent statistics from the Jirapa municipality, where there is a high prevalence percentage of the abuse of tramadol in the area. Justice Yoni-Kulendi scolded them to stay away from tramadol and other abusive substances that can destroy their life.
When you see or hear of tramadol, don't run, don't walk, flee if you can fly. The moment you start touching tramadol and putting it in your mouth, you are gone. And don't think this is a joke, huh? There's a research that was done recently in the Jirapa area. And sad, and it's very painful to think that this is my small region and my district where I come from. My sister, who I come after, married in Jirapa and has children there. They did a survey there. Do you know that 78.5 or 9% of the respondents use tramadol? Okay. And in fact, sadly, the record is not good. Ghana is number 1 in Africa on the use of narcotics. Yeah, Ghana is number 1 in Africa. I think even cocaine, we top the list. But the good news for people like me and you, who come from these small villages, who come from our poor, humble backgrounds, is that whilst the rich people are busy poisoning their minds and killing themselves with these things, if we are focused and you study hard and you pay attention and you avoid the alcohol, you avoid the marijuana, you avoid the candies, avoid the tramadol, avoid the amphetamines, by the time they wake up, we too, we've caught up with them.
Next was the use of social media, which he said was a double-edged sword, which he will want them to embrace the good side of it.
So the phone is a very powerful tool and social media is very useful. However, this same phone that is a powerful tool that can help your learning is also a very dangerous thing you are holding. On that social media platforms, you will see all manner of things. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You will see people doing things that even animals don't do. You will see pornography. You will see people trying to sell you some different ideas and belief systems. All of those bad things are also on social media. So please, by all means, use social media, but use the positive sides of social media. And don't let the phone, which should help you achieve your dream, don't let the phone destroy your dream.
Member of Parliament for Dafiama Bure Issa, Dr. Sebastian Sandari, on his part, urged the students to take their studies seriously, which in the future will catapult them to achieve their dreams.
Learn very hard, and you can become the professional that you want to be in the future. There's no magic. You have all that you need to learn hard, to be the lawyer, the accountant, the doctor, the nurse, the teacher, name them. So please, learn very hard and you get to your dream.
President of the Bisu National, Gilbert Kapala, called on the DBR District Assembly to integrate the activities of the union into the plans of the Assembly to enable them have a voice. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam, Dafiema.
Well, let's get right into our business updates with Samuel Kujo-Brace.
Do business on the AM News, and economist Professor Patrick Isuming is proposing the immediate cultivation of major food staples to control rising inflation in the country. He is of the view that the only panacea to curb the increase of food inflation, arguing the various government intervention policies have not yielded the desired results. Professor Isuming comments follows the marginal increase of inflation for the month of December 2024 to 23.8% from the November inflation figure of 23.0%, triggering largely by rising food prices.
Well, I think you just been talking about the food inflation for the since 2022 or so. Food inflation has been the biggest driver of inflation, and that is real problematic. I think what the immediate thing the government can do is to actually go and set up large-scale commercial farms in a farm place area and get a lot of young people to go and help with production of some of our basic staples immediately. Because the interventions that we are talking about, it seems to face bottlenecks at different points. Let's go and grow more maize, grow more rice, grow more staples, and then start making sure that at the next harvest season, we've seen there's more abundance of food and the food prices are coming down. Because the rising food insecurity is a major problem. While we do that, I think we also have to tackle the distribution. Even in periods where food production has been reasonably okay, transport costs has been extremely high because the roads, the main food production centers are not good. If you take yam, for instance, you can have places where the northern part will have an abundance of yam, and yam prices are extremely high down south because we are not making use of, for instance, the water transportation system well enough. And we have not, even our road construction has not really taken proper cognizance of how we make sure that the major production centers are connected to the major market.
Well, Accra is the fifth most expensive city in Africa in terms of rent. This is according to Numbeo. Now, Accra's rent index of 12.0 also placed it 230 in the world. There's more in this report.
According to the Data and Research Powerhouse, high rents can strain household finances, leaving families with little discretionary income to spend on needs such as food, education, healthcare, and transportation. It stated that a high rent cost raises the question of how important said urban centers are, considering that a lot of jobs these days can be done remotely. Lagos is the most expensive city in Africa, with a rent index of 24.3. It is ranked 122 in the world. In second, third, and fourth places are Cape Town, Addis Ababa, and Dar es Salaam, respectively. Numbeo said, while the importance of urban centers such as proximity to better infrastructure and economic opportunities cannot be disputed, the cost of living against revenue can always be weighed.
That'll be all for business, but we'll bring you the currency updates now. After that, we have news review. Stay on.
Welcome aboard the news review segment on the AM show. And our guest joining us this morning, joining Kojo and I this morning, Dr. Paul Dankwa. He's former spokesperson on governance and security. And we'll also have Gideon Tete. He's a legal practitioner and a member of the NDC team. So he'll also be joining us to review the newspapers. Doc, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah. How does it feel? I must ask you, because I'm sure our audience want to know. How does it feel to be in opposition?
This is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it.
I sure you are rejoicing.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Leaving government for opposition.
Well, it is what the Ghanaian people requested for.
Okay.
And the view is different, the feeling is different, but we are a very engaging opposition government.
Okay.
Unlike others. And so very clearly you would see that there's a lot more work to be done to defend the legacy of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led government and to let the Ghanaian people know of what a privilege and an honor it was for us to be able to serve them during those 8 years.
Okay.
And to wish the new government, John Dramani Mahama, and the first female vice president the best in their leadership.
Would that be your initial comment for us, or is there something else you'd like to add? Plus, you also mentioned the legacy of Akufo-Addo. Just give me three things to back that. What would be the legacy of former President Akufo-Addo? What's the legacy?
High school, for me.
Okay.
Large industrialization, assembling of vehicles, one district, one factory.
Right.
Large drones.
One district, one factory.
Yes, absolutely. Large drones, the health infrastructure that has been put in place. These, for me, will be three significant things in addition to protecting the borders and the security that we have had over those 8 years.
Okay.
That would be my thoughts.
Kojo?
But I mean, just after the swearing in, and you woke up in your house, how was it? We haven't been there before. How was it feeling like? That finally you've left government?
Well, you know, the onus really lies on everyone, that the opportunity that is given for you to govern, you govern well. And if you know that you have fought the good fight, you have finished the race, and now awaits you a crown of glory, it's a sign of relief. And to see that you can transition effectively and smoothly to a new government and see that there are no casualties and see that the entire of Africa comes to the glory of Ghana. It's commendable. And I was very pleased with the high-ranking officials that came. Paul Kagame is an icon for everyone on the continent, and I think this should be his first time. I don't know if my mind serves me right, coming to Ghana, and to see the president of Botswana, see the rank and file of businessmen from Nigeria. Very, 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 very commendable. So waking up immediately after handing over, it's a clear fulfillment of the fact that you have done a good work, and you give yourself a pat at your soldier.
Okay. But those people who came for John Dramani Mahama, not for your government.
No, they came for the country. I mean, obviously they came for President John Dramani Mahama. They also came for the country, which is Ghana. And leadership is successive. And so very clearly, if the country was in turmoil, there was no way you would have those large numbers coming in.
You used to speak for the government in terms of governance and security, and you left out Ibrahim Traore. Reactions are pouring in about approaching the president with a gun strapped to his waist, and the security protocols, and whether it was a breach or not. What do you make of all that?
So these are my thoughts. Okay, so you are aware the challenges that the sub-region has gone through.
Yes.
You are aware how ECOWAS has had to put those countries that has gone through destabilization of their democracy, tried as much as possible to give them some suspension, and how in the long term they have withdrawn from the community of heads of state and the Ubuntu that they so enjoyed.
Okay, let's get into the newspaper.
His life has been under threat. There are many times that he's been sought to be assassinated. across the world and even in his own country. I felt that they could have managed better the working on the days with the side arms. I mean, I felt that could have been managed a little bit more better.
Okay.
But be it as it may, I mean, it's happened. We don't want to cry over spilled milk, but it could have been managed a little bit better.
Okay. Point well noted. So let me get into the daily graphic. On the front page, Ghana misses inflation targets. December rate inches up to 23.8%. President revokes MMDCE's appointment. Energy crisis looms. We need $1.2 billion for Accra. Government and stakeholders are scrambling for a solution. Business grinds slowly at MDA's day one after transition. And of course, that's altercation in Ablekuma North. Returning officer says he is stepping down. I think I'm going to touch on all these major stories in the daily graphic. It's as thick as it can be this morning. So let's get into it. And let's start from the energy crisis that is looming. So the government has expressed concern about a potential energy sector crisis in the country, with Accra and its environs alone requiring around $1.2 billion of fuel costs for its predominantly thermal power plants. Consequently, a committee set up by the Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, and at the instruction of President John Dramani Mahama, has met with industry stakeholders to find a quick solution to the looming crisis. However, government spokesperson Felix Kwachifosu told the Daily Graphic in an interview that the scheduled maintenance work on the WACP was supposed to be done October last year. I'm sure we're all following the story, but let me do one more before I come to you, gentlemen. And of course, we usher in our second guest, who's just joined us right now in the studio. There's a President revokes MMDCE's appointment, and President John Dramani Mahama has revoked the appointment of all chief executives of metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies and government-appointed assembly members across the country with immediate effect. And the decision, which took effect yesterday, was in line with the provisions of the Local Governance Act 2016. At least 26 of these 261 MMDCEs were appointed by the immediate past presidents, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And there was a statement, and we all saw it. And the action by President Mahama is a clear departure from 2009, when President Mills, as MMDC, is appointed by previous NPP administration to remain in power until he was ready to make his own appointment. These two major stories. Dr. Pagwe Bachidankwa, but we also have Mr. Tete in the studio with us, legal practitioner and member of the NDC. How are you doing this morning, sir?
Sweetie, good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for joining us. I know we give you some time to get into your trail of thoughts, but the two stories that we just we're getting into right now is the energy crisis that is looming and the revoking of those, the appointment of those MMDCs as mandated by the president. But I want to start with you, Dr. Pagwe Bachidankwa, on these two stories.
Yes, so sweetie, I'll begin with the mandate of the president, John Dramani Mahama, and at the local government level, very, very significantly, when you are president of the republic, you have representatives that represent you at the local government level. And I think that he's been very swift with that decision is in accordance with standard practices for me as a governance person. And I'm very certain that other persons that held those roles that was conterminous with the reign of the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia-led government. Clearly, you would know that immediately after government changes hands, your work is done. Yeah. So this is in accordance. I mean, the laws are very clear. It's in accordance with standard practices. And it's important that this has been done. It gives a lot more clarity to the government to immediately prepare. And I'm glad that he has appointed a coordinating officers at the various MMDCs to act instead as he prepares to set up his team. And so it's a step in the right direction.
It's sort of standard practice that when governments, a new government comes and the MMDCs are asked to go off, the people who assume that role is the coordinating directors before the appointment are done. But again, I think it was only the Mills, President Mills, who asked the four MMDCs to continue for a certain period of time.
Right.
But it's interesting how this will go. We'll see, you know. But I think, like he said, as an MMDC, you should know that after 7th December, especially
your job is done.
When your party loses, of course, you start to hand over. And I know some people who started to pack out of their official bungalows after 7th December.
Yeah.
You know, so by now, you shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah.
And someone said yesterday that you should even hand over your note on the 7th of January. Don't even go there and be asked to.
There's no surprise there.
No.
But Gideon Tete is legal practitioner for Greater Accra and regional director for conflict resolution for the NDC. What do you make of these two stories? And then you can add whatever you wanted to reflect on.
That's fine. Good morning. Let me say good morning to your viewers. Well, first of all, let me bring to the attention of the public that yesterday, I remember the last time you called, we came here, we spoke about Ablekuma South and the Kwankwe South going to Dubai under the auspices of the Honorable Imanoni Ashimo, the NDC Greater Accra Regional Chairman. Yesterday, we welcomed them. They arrived and we welcomed them. They arrived in Ghana at 11 a.m. and we went there to welcome them. Some of your colleague media houses even came there to interview them and all that, just to show or indicate that the NDC rewards hard work. Mm-hmm. And so that is how come we chalked 31 seats out of 34 seats. And so we just want to remind members of the NDC that indeed, once they work hard all the time under the auspices and excellent leadership of the Honorable Imanoni Ashimo, they would get more rewards. Now, Shuti, on the issue of revocation of appointments, well, I recall that 8 years ago, when we were in government, once we lost, we did not even, some of our colleagues and some of us did not even go to the office, because as your colleague has mentioned, you don't need to actually wait for government to even revoke your appointment or even just quickly prepare your handing over those, because you've lost. And clearly, there's no way a new government will want to work with, an appointee that is working with, the previous government. That's one I agree. So standard practice. If it is good that yes, the late President Mills, did say, but by standard practice, once the president that appointed you is out of office, you just have to advise yourself to avoid any embarrassment. And so I think that this is standard practice. And of course, I know some MCs and DCs had already done the needful. And so this one is just a fact that, of course, by procedure, and by law, the appointment will have to be revoked before appointment is.
So no surprise there.
So once he's a lawyer, he should confirm this for us. Once your time comes on end, like the President Mahama has done, that they have to leave office, who takes over?
Oh, well, so, don't forget that it's the president that appoints. Mm-hmm. And so the president can appoint and disappoint. And so once a president revokes your appointment, obviously someone will have to hold your fort. It can be the coordinator of that assembly. But of course, you indicate that you see clearly that even in the release signed by Dr. Khalisus Mahama, he indicated who they should hand over their staff to, so that at least the person will hold fort for the meantime whilst they prepare to appoint.
So it means that the president can appoint an interim person, or it automatically goes to the
president can appoint
director
and disappoint. Okay. So once a president has appointed, don't forget that the president is not the human being, it's an office. So whoever occupies it has the powers to appoint and disappoint. And so you see that the president, who is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, revoked the appointment, yes. And that is in accordance to law.
Okay. Am I right in, it's not speculation, but you can confirm if this information is correct, that they intend to do some restructuring of local governance that align with their policies? So are we going to see something different this time in terms of the reappointments, what roles they will be assigned, and even how they get into office? Are we going to see something different?
Well, it may not be too different. Well, we already know how the municipalities and district assemblies run. Yeah. And so definitely whoever is appointed has in mind the 24-hour economy. It is a key policy under this government. And so basically whoever is there will be in line with whatever we have promised and even the things we want to do in our first 120.
Okay, great. Dr. Pago Bajida, I don't know if you had the chance to talk about the energy crisis. I know we took the wind out of your sail there, but
okay.
yeah.
It's fine. So it's early days. We want to observe the sitting president, John Dramani Mahama and his team. But, you know, sweetie, you're aware that there was a 4-week transitional period where there was a joint government because the Act mandates that you transition over a period of time. At a time when the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia-led government was leaving office, we had a mandate to ensure that we keep the lights on considerably over the years and also ensure that Send Power and AXA consistently are receiving fuel to be able to keep the lights on. Today is day 3 or day 2 after the swearing in of John Dramani Mahama's reign. He's got just a 4-year mandate because this is his second term. I'm very certain that he's in a hurry, which is why he wants to run a 24-hour economy so that things can be done a lot more faster. We know that there are no energy issues or looming dangers at the time when we were leaving office. We know that. However, the government of the day has said that if they are unable to manage issues, we would get back to the dark days of doing so. I want to plead that the Ghanaian people have given the mandate to President John Dramani Mahama, overwhelmingly. A mandate that gives him an opportunity to be a legacy president and cleaning up some of the challenges that he had in his first term. Minded to think that people don't often remember things, but when you come into the scene, people begin to remember the records that you have had. We would want to see that the lights are kept on. We would want to see that industries survive. We would want to see that the country works. And we would want to see that the President, John Dramani Mahama, I know that he set up a team, a 12-member team, led by John Jenapo, to look into these issues.
I want to take you back to that statement you made.
We were leaving office.
Yeah, you're getting there again.
Yes, at the time where we were leaving office, the government that was led by Akufo-Addo-Bawumia, we kept the lights on.
Yesterday, Kojo and I engaged some stakeholders in the energy sector. We were told that there was no fuel. You didn't make any arrangements. This outgone administration did not make any arrangements to purchase fuel. And we're looking at, well, this morning, the Daily Graphic is reporting 1.2 billion. But yesterday, I think Nana Mwesi told us that about $8 to $9 million immediately to fix the situations to keep the lights on for the next 100 days, because I asked him to give us an estimate. You were sure that you kept the lights on, but did you put in the necessary arrangements to ensure that when the next administration takes over, they can also keep the lights on for at least the first 1 month in office? Did you do that?
I'm even surprised.
Yes or no? Did you do that? Was that arrangement
I'm even surprised we're having this conversation, because I'll tell you what. You see, you recall that there was a time Parliament was supposed to meet. Ghanaian people remember that. Parliament was supposed to meet to be able to approve some middle-term budgets for the period when before the president, John Dramani Mahama, sets up his team and before he does the State of the Nation address and all of that. You recall that. That Parliament did not sit. You also recall as well that, I mean, for me, during the transitional period, right, government opened up its books. Government was transitioning from one government onto another government. So is the transitional team from the incoming government now, did they not notice that these things were not done? So for me, okay, there is no way anyone would say that we either wanted to sabotage the John Dramani Mahama government or we did not prepare the incoming government effectively. No,
right.
Because the transitional period gave time for that.
So I'm listening to you. You are confirming to us that indeed you did not make provision, and you are saying that you didn't because there was no budget.
No, I didn't. I'm not confirming that.
But that's what you just said.
Hold on. All I'm saying really is that at the time we were leaving office, which is you can make it the 6th of January, Send Power had fuel. They were working. The lights had been on. AXA were receiving fuel, and there was a transitional period. You recall that. And then also there were moments that Parliament had to meet.
Yes, to do what?
There were outstanding procedures that Parliament had to meet. The Minister for Finance at the time had to go back to Parliament to make sure that they put together a small budget to run effectively and pay salaries and all of those. You recall that.
So what relationship does that have with the fact that no fuel was made available for the next government?
No, that's what I'm trying to say. You see, Kojo, I'm trying to bring your attention to the fact that there was a transitional team.
I get it.
Good. But so if once there was a transitional team, the transitional team from the outgoing government and the incoming government opened their books. We didn't hear of this during the transitional period.
Okay.
Why are we hearing of it? Why are we hearing of it immediately after?
You are still in government, and the fact that you say that the Parliament refused to say it, to approve a certain budget, it means you are trying to tell us that your inability to provide fuel is because Parliament didn't say to approve a budget.
That's the conclusion you're making, but that's not what I'm saying.
I'm curious to see how Gideon reacts to this story.
Sweetie, thank you very much. It's unfortunate. We knew right from the word go that the Akufo-Addo government wanted to ambush us on the issue of Dumso. It must be set on record that indeed NPP didn't solve Dumso. It's the NDC that solved Dumso and added megawatts to actually lead to the fact that Dumso came to an end before we handed over power to the NPP. Under the NPP, they failed to pay their debts. The reason why Dumso, and if you notice, they actually were, taxful in terms of the areas that will experience Dumso. Depending on where you live, you will get to know that there's Dumso or not. I went to the Volta region during Christmas in Ho, and the light just goes off at any point in time. But when you come to some parts of Accra, you have lights. If you go to some parts like maybe Teshi-Nungwa, thereabout, the light just goes off and off. And so Dumso was already looming because of the fact that Akufo-Addo government failed to pay the IPPs, independent. Right. But you see, what I want to establish is that even though the MPP thought that they would ambush us and we'll find ourselves in a difficult situation, just yesterday, we bought some emergency fuel from Nigeria and other sources just to make sure that the lights are on. So we are ready. We mean business. We will not be caught by whatever tricks they wanted to do. The point is that they told us that they had left enough fuel there. At the time of, the swearing in, when it was checked, we realized that there was nothing there.
Did this come up during transition, during the joint?
Yes, if I'm sure you interviewed the Honorable Jinapo, since he led the transition in terms of energy, and you would even listen to his interview when he was even interviewed on that.
So, because I'm asking that to also get to the point that if it came up during the transition time, why didn't you also make buying the emergency fuel like you just said? We didn't hear until that you took over.
What did he say? He said government opened their books. So if you have opened their books, it means that you are being honest with me.
No, his point was that government opened it. So if there was anything,
what is the meaning of opening books? When you open your book, does it not mean that you are being honest?
Yes,
exactly. So
and he said if it was the case that there were no fuel, you should have known. You should have.
That is what I'm saying. That he indicated that they opened their books. What is the meaning of opening the books? It means being transparent and open. So if you open your books and you tell me that you have fuel, must I go? Does it mean that I should fail to trust you?
Okay. So they told you they had secured enough fuel, and you believed them, and so it only came up after you took over. Right.
What you told us is not what you told us. So you see, he has even confirmed that you opened your books, and open your book means that you are being accountable. Not true. Which means that you want to be transparent and honest with us as to what you have left and what you have not left. And so if you opened your books and you told us that you have fuel, you have enough fuel for this and that, and later we get to realize that it is not as much as you indicate, then it means you wanted to ambush us. But you see, bottom line, we have purchased emergency fuel from Nigeria and other sources to make sure that the lights are on.
Okay, I get it. But when they opened their books to you, you also took note of what was happening, right?
Yes, but
so you could also understand the realities on the ground.
Yes, but
when someone gives you money, do you count it? Just to be sure that they gave you the accurate number that they said.
If you don't trust the person, that's when you count the money.
Did you trust? So you trusted them enough to...
Governance is a continuum. You have opened your books. It's a transition. This is not the first time transitions are happening in this country. Is that not so? When an outgoing government and incoming government are coming, you open your books, you tell us what you have and all that, so that we know that this is what you are leaving behind. And so once you tell us, it is expected that you are telling us the true state of the country. Not to lie to us, only to realize that it's a lie. But you see, what I want us to establish is that we are not a government of excuses. That is why when we realized that the NPP had lied, we didn't come, even though we indicated that this is what has happened. We didn't say that, okay, because NPP lied to us, the Akufo-Addo lied to us, so we are sitting down, put our hands, in our laps. No, we quickly found a way to make sure that we have lights.
So when is the fuel arriving?
Well, I cannot tell now, but the most important thing is that once we've purchased the fuel and from Nigeria and other sources, then it means that our lights are going to be on.
Okay. So I asked that because, remember, John Jinapor said the fuel that the plant
that was before his confirmation. That was before we purchased the fuel.
Okay.
No, I get it. I get it. This was just he spoke. I think was yesterday. 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yes.
That the lights were going to stay on for two days.
2 days
and then the fuel that is now that they found was 5 hours.
Exactly.
That's why I'm asking, when will the fuel you've purchased?
That is why we are saying that it's called emergency fuel. It means that immediately we bought it. Emergency means that it will not take the time that we are talking about. Don't forget that what you discussed was before the meeting with President John Mahama just yesterday.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what happened yesterday. Once, as at the time the Honorable John Jinapor was speaking, they had not had a meeting with President John Mahama on the issue of this Doomso matter. And so once that was done, quickly there was a meeting where we quickly purchased emergency fuel to make sure that our lights are on. So emergency fuel means that all the time period that, Honorable John Jinapor spoke about, it will not be that time that we have to, because it's called emergency. Emergency fuel means immediately, because we don't have, if we want to follow the timelines, then it means that we'll be in Doomso. Do you understand the point?
No, I get it.
But should we go to your paper now and do some other stories?
So that should tell you that the NDC means business. We are not, we will, in as much as we will indicate that the Akufo-Addo government has done this and that, we will not put blame on them and not find solutions. We just want to make it clear that they lied to us. But because we are serious and we mean business, we quickly found a way to make sure that our lights. That's why Ghanaians voted for us. We are not a government of excuses.
So it's not a case that, there's fuel, but you just want to take credit for something.
The NDC is not a government of excuses.
Okay.
Once we drew the attention of Ghanaians that this is the true state of the nation in terms of what Akufo-Addo left for us, we didn't just sit down and put our hands in between our laps. We quickly found a remedy to resolve the issue. And that is how come just yesterday we drew the attention of Ghanaians that we have purchased an emergency fuel from Nigeria and other sources to make sure that our lights are on. So right now, the most important thing is that, and the most important thing for Ghanaians is that my lights must be on. I'm not bothered as to how you make sure my lights are on.
Yeah.
And so we will not be here to be telling Ghanaians, giving Ghanaians excuses. We will only indicate what happened previously and the fact that indeed this is what has happened now. And that is the fact that indeed we are trying to, resolve the issue. And so as the NDC, don't forget that John Mahama has 4 years. He's ready. He started working, and he's not here this time to give excuses. He just make sure that at least Ghanaians get to know what it is and what we have done, just to make sure that we still deliver on our promise.
I love how you're on top of the issues when it comes to power and all of those issues. So, do you know when the fuel is arriving in the country? You said emergency.
Emergency.
Yeah, I get it.
You keep asking me that question. I get it. The word emergency.
I get it.
Means that those periods that we talk about.
I understand.
Exactly.
But when exactly is it coming?
No, you see, your question should be, would lights still have lights or not?
Oh,
not the issue of the fuel. No. That's because Ghanaians, as you are asking me, Ghanaians are not interested with the fuel. Ghanaians are interested in the fact that as he's in the house, he has lights.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm telling you, that the back door does not matter. What you must indicate is that we've purchased emergency fuel to make sure that we have light continuously.
Yes, you told me.
Exactly.
You told me.
Exactly.
You told me that.
Because you are a voter. Your interest is to make sure they have light.
Yes, exactly.
Not to ask me what is the fuel.
No. But
if I don't have light. If you don't have light, that's when you will be concerned.
But you told me that there was no fuel, right?
We didn't indicate there was no fuel. We indicated that the fuel left
was five enough. Yes,
exactly.
And then you say that you've purchased emergency fuel
to make sure that
the lights stay on.
Exactly.
I get it. And I'm asking, when is this fuel dropping? Is it today 12 midday or tomorrow 5 p.m. or
what?
That
is what I'm saying, that the most important thing now is that we have purchased emergency fuel to make sure.
Do you not know the estimated time of arrival for this fuel?
My concern, what I want to establish.
It's okay if you don't know.
I don't want to give you a day or time. What I want us to establish is that we have resolved the problem by making sure that that fuel that was not enough, we have made sure we've purchased to make sure that we still have lights continuously.
Right.
And don't forget that the Ghanaian voter is not interested in when the fuel will come. He's interested in the fact that when he wakes up in the morning, he still has light.
You see, this is the only point I disagree with you is that because you told us we don't have fuel, and that automatically raises concerns that we don't have light.
Exactly.
So if you're saying that you're fixing the problem, then we are concerned. How exactly are they fixing
so that when that day comes and it doesn't come, we can ask questions.
We told you we didn't have enough fuel.
Yes. So now we are concerned.
And yesterday, what happened? We know
there was a meeting. We know
exactly. And then after telling you we didn't have fuel, the next day, yesterday, we told you that even though we do have fuel, we have quickly made, amends and find ways to make sure that we still have light.
You see that that's exactly what happened between the joint transition team. They told you there was fuel enough to carry you through, and you believed them. You are telling us now that you've purchased emergency fuel. You expect us to believe you, but we are just saying that. Give us an ETA, estimated time of arrival of this one. I know we have to move on from this.
You can begin your doubt.
You
can begin your doubt when you begin to have lights off. But until if your lights are still on, then you don't have to worry.
So
exactly, you get my point.
Let's leave it.
When your lights are still on, when the Ghanaian voter still has his lights on, he's not bothered about you do at the back door.
Okay, all right.
And that is the job as a government. Our job is to make sure that the Ghanaians are comfortable. The Ghanaians get what they voted for. It's not about what you are doing back door. So don't forget, and let's be very fair. We told you we didn't have enough fuel. Just yesterday, we indicated to you that because we didn't have fuel, we have quickly purchased emergency fuel from Nigeria and other sources to make sure that we still have lights. Full stop. It means that, what it means is that you are going to continue to have lights and you will not even hear issue of doom so.
Well, anyway,
that's it.
Anyway, we get it, we'll take it, we'll live on, we'll move on. But you, because you believe there's a certain government and you're open to a certain reality, we also want to make sure that.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Let's move on. Let's move on.
The reality is that, don't forget that as we are working for Ghanaians.
Yes.
Right? It's just like you are working here.
Yeah.
Your boss gives you work to do. He's not bothered about how you do it. What he wants is results. Is that not so?
Yes.
Exactly. If you're boss, so Ghanaians are not interested in how we do it. Ghanaians are interested in the results.
You see, you are wrong. Gideon, you are wrong. I would wager you that these responses. Hold on a second. I'm happy to hear you out. I'm happy to hear you out after I land my point.
Would actually be listening to the fact that because we didn't have fuel, so we should sit down and there's no do so. They don't care. They will tell us that we voted for you to make sure there's light. So don't tell us that because there are no fuel, so we should be doing so.
Great.
That's what let's move on.
Hear me out.
That the MPP keep on saying
Gideon,
that.
it's okay. Hear me out.
I'll conclude.
Right.
The MPP keep on saying that they handed over with our lights on. Is that not so? Which means that we must make sure that our lights are on continuously. We cannot come back as NDC and bring back to so.
And so you're doing that.
They will make sure that they will criticize us and make Ghanaians know that we are not doing our work well. And so quickly, once they have left the lights on and we handed over with the lights on, whatever happens, we have to make sure that it is on.
All right. Let's do the Economy Times now. It says President Mahama assures business community promising days ahead, and President John Dramani Mahama has assured business community that Ghana is once again open for business. In his inaugural speech at the swearing-in ceremony held yesterday, January 7, 2025, he reaffirmed, so that should be on Tuesday there, he reaffirmed Ghana's commitment to a business-friendly environment, emphasizing his government's focus on economic restoration. And also, foreign remittance can stop Ghana from borrowing if properly tracked, finance expert. Now, finance expert has admonished the John Mahama administration to pay much attention to the foreign remittance sector. Dr. Richmond Etuahene notes that foreign remittance sector is very huge, which can end Ghana's cyclical ritual of seeking relief from the International Monetary Fund and other multilaterals, indicating that remittances alone, if tracked properly and allowed to go through the banking system, it will be huge than the IMF $3 billion loan and other multilateral support, which mostly come with harsh conditions that affect ordinary citizens. And I think that's something that caught my eye in terms of the foreign remittance. You remember yesterday, Ata Kennedy was saying that if we take care of foreign diaspora, we could really rake in a lot more than we go out for there to borrow. So, question is, what was the strategy? I mean, you've been alerted to the fact that there's a lot of money from the remittances sector. Are we paying heed to that?
Well, you have my bite.
On which one? Yes. The power.
And then I'll come into this. I mean,
the power. You've already had your bite. No, but you would also want to have a bite.
Let me have a bite on this.
Okay, have a bite on it.
You know, Sweetie and Kojo.
Maybe I had a full one. And you have a bite.
And the viewing public. You know, President Mahama has promised accountability. My question is, how much is this backdoor fuel costing? That's one. Because you see, Sweetie, the process is as important as the product. It's very, very important. We can appreciate everything that you want to do for the Ghanaian people, but the process is as important as the product. And so we want to ask President John Dramani Mahama, how much is this emergency fuel cost? And then also another question that I have not seen being asked is on the inauguration. How much did that also cost us? Because he's promised accountability. And I mean, on remittances and then on the economy. The speech of President John Dramani Mahama was very clear because he has the mandate of the Ghanaian people overwhelmingly. He promised to do 4 things, which he tried to elaborate a lot more in his speech. One of that was to look at the economy of the country, to look at the governance and try to tackle corruption, and try to look at a number of things that he spoke about. For me, we have seen the level of work that the Kufuor Bawumia-led government has done with the diaspora and the level at which remittances have increased significantly over the years. When government puts in the mobile money interoperability, Kojo, it would interest you to know, Sweetie, and the viewing public, if you are in Europe, you can send money directly to Ghana. Those days of Western Union and all of those have become a thing of the past. If people are in America, Latin America, Asia, any parts of the world, they can easily send money. So the platform has been put in place. The mechanisms has been put in place. There is no way that President John Dramani Mahama has any excuse not to deliver to the Ghanaian people.
Let me just give you some context here. And this is a story also from the Daily Graphic. It says, track remittances expand property tax. I just want to bring this to your attention. The World Bank estimates that $4 billion worth of remittances flowed into Ghana's economy between 2016 and 2022. And this makes forex inflows from remittances the highest compared to cocoa, oil, and even gold, if receipts are personalized to factor in the true amount, according to some financial experts. Now, I remember very well Dr. Richmond Etuahene waging war on how we are not declaring the actual figures in terms of remittances that come in, where the money is going and all that. And you're saying, Doc, that this, the Akufo-Addo government did a lot of work. Give me some evidence to back this claim that you have done exceptionally well in terms of the monies that are coming into the country through remittances, what you did with it, the discrepancies between the records you have and Dr. Tiahene and his own checks and all that. Really, what have you done? And please be as specific as possible.
No, I mean, no, sweetie, you see, for me, you know, I'm not an economist. My area is governance and security.
Right.
If you want to really check the facts of what the Kufuor-Bawumia-led government has done in terms of remittances, it's evidential. I mean, you can always recall for those records. But for me, that's what I'm trying to say is that we created that platform. You saw very clearly how Ghanaian people around the world on a regular basis had the desire to send money to Ghana, to their families, to their friends, to continue projects that they had begun, and to see to it that their friends and their families continually receive those remittances. And the ease with which they could do that.
So it's about the ease, it's about the availability of modes of transfer and all that. But in terms of the revenue, that's, you know, but let's move on. We have just
the thought about the Tiahene is about how government can generate revenue from those remittances. How much did government generate in the last year, for example?
I don't have the records available readily.
But was government generating something from those ones?
I don't have the records available readily.
Yeah, the point, that's the point. That if you do it and do it properly, you can get more money than the 3 billion we went to the IMF for. So that's the focus. Is government getting any revenue at all? Anyway.
Let's do some other stories. Too quickly, I'll add these two together and then we can talk
let me
about
find
it.
out from there. Is there something you're looking at?
Well, thank you very much. Let me also address the issue of accountability. That is why we have a team on the operation. We cover all routes as part of the accountability. Whatever amount we have even spent, we'll definitely account to Ghanaians. And you know that's why Parliament is there. When His Excellency John Dramani Mahama gets his appointees ready, definitely we'll account to Ghanaians on whatever amount we've spent on all the things that Ghanaians want to hear. On the issue of remittance, yes, of course. Whatever activity that will help this government raise enough funds, why not? Of course, but we indicated that as for some taxes like the e-levy, we will scrap it. I mean, we will not engage in nuisance taxes that will put so much burden on Ghanaians. And so, for us, if indeed the remittances raise enough revenue, then I'm sure that if we focus on that, just make sure that we get enough revenue from there so that at least we can scrap, we can use that to cushion, you know, other expenditure when we scrap e-levy, COVID levy, the 10% levy on bed tax and emissions levy within 90 days. And so for us, I think that we will look at it and definitely know how to make sure that we get enough function.
Okay. I do have to say, though, that, you know, responses like, don't worry about the how, and once we say we'll keep the lights on, we'll keep it on, you don't need to bother yourself, those responses are part of the reason we booted out the NPP, you know. Every boss the bosses may be more interested in the results, but they are also very much interested in how it is done, how you achieve the results, which is why we have checks for plagiarism, which is why we have, you know, so many checks and balances in place, because it's not always true that the end justifies the means. You know what I mean? So also because you campaign on transparency and accountability and all that. So I'm just saying that going forward, you might have to be more transparent with us than saying that we shouldn't worry about the processes and only care about the results. You just said Nigeria. Yes.
We don't tell you.
No,
So
it's not an argument we're having. I'm just saying.
We've told you the source.
Yeah. You just can't tell us the ETA.
We are indicating that we are purchasing emergency fuel from Nigeria. We have told you where it is coming from. And so once we told you what the issue was, we told you where we are getting the fuel to make sure that you have lights.
Gideon, my point is that going forward, this government, this administration must have, you ought to be more transparent with us than the NPP administration.
Why not? That is why you voted for us.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we'll make sure transparent. And that's why I'm saying that at least we're transparent to tell you where we're getting the fuel from.
Okay.
We didn't tell you that we're getting
I just want to read. We have 1 minute to go. Food crisis imminent in Volta region. This according to ASTRA. That is the Accelerator for Systemic Risk Assessment. And it's supported by United Nations Foundation. It's an independent non-profit initiative. But let me just skip to this part where one of the members, I believe, of the ASTRA network, Sylvanus Doe, said at the workshop that if the rainfall pattern did not change for the better days, the food insecurity situation might be worse. I'll take your quick reflection and final take on all that, but I also want to add that irate youth storm public institutions in Tema, and they're demanding the exit of NPP appointees. It does not lie in your hands, ladies and gentlemen, and our cherished audience, to take up that role for yourself and go and sack people from their offices. There are systems in place for that to happen. So the group, the irate youth doing that, please. Hopefully this gets to the attention of the appropriate authorities so they can take charge of it. Gentlemen, we've come to the end, but we'll take your final thoughts on these and other stories. Kojo, if you have any other thing to add quickly before.
I think these were
Doug, let me start with you, Doug.
Yes, well, sweetie, abundance of food is important for everyone. We don't eat to survive, we don't live to eat. But I mean, I think that they should look at that. I mean, abundance of food is good. We don't want any food shortage anywhere. We've provided food for the Ghanaian people to eat. So we don't want any food shortage, especially in the World Bank of the NDC. We don't want any food shortage. And to again wish the President, John Dramani Mahama, the best in his leadership. All the promises he made that the Ghanaian people voted for him to take out e-levy, take out betting tax, take out COVID-19, all of those taxes that he said he would take out. We want to see that he gets to work and he does that.
All right.
I've seen that there's a list of Parliamentary Appointment Committee that has come out as well. I'm sure that when President John Dramani Mahama sets up his immediate cabinet, they would go for vetting, and so would follow the due processes as well.
Thank you. Gideon?
Yes, we see. Let me address the issue of the irate
youth. Yeah.
Yesterday, the regional chairman of the NDC Greater Accra, Honorable Imanoni Shimon, addressed the media and addressed the youth to hasten slowly in terms of storming the public institutions, because we are interested in protecting state property. We don't want to encourage people to just storm into public institutions and do whatever they want. It's against the law, and we don't support that. And so we are actually in talks with the police to make sure that there's law and order. And so I'm sure that today, definitely the youth will, I'm sure yesterday, the youth were called to that, because once our attention was drawn, we quickly addressed this issue and then we took forward. And
well, the story did say that nobody was hurt, so yeah.
Yeah, so that at least we just make sure that we are not in support of lawlessness. On the issue of food security, well, yes, there's no way we want to be hungry, not at all. And so it is good that there has been a revelation. And sometimes revelations are brought so that at least it can be redeemed. And so once there has been a revelation, definitely, I know that in the coming days, things will be done to make sure that we don't have food insecurity.
Well,
it's been awesome having the two gentlemen here. Let's see how the year goes. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Paul Dankwa is former spokesman. So does that mean you no longer speak for government?
No, he
no longer speak for the previous government,
eh?
So he's former spokesperson.
He could be speaking for the MPP.
Yeah, but not.
So he's an MPP communicator.
Spokesperson on governance and security. Yes. We also had Gideon Tete, legal practitioner for Greater Accra and Greater Accra Regional Director, for conflict resolution for the NDC. But stay, sports comes up next with Muftar Nabila Abdullahi. We're back in a bit.
Haruna Mubarak. Now, former Ghana international Emmanuel Ajimambedu has advised agents and players and parents to give ample time for their players to develop to ensure they excel abroad. Several players who have emerged from the local scene have struggled to gain a foothold after moving to Europe. Emmanuel Ajimambedu, who played for Serie A side Udinese, says the players are not developed enough before they are transferred.
The FA are doing a lot, because I have a document. Maybe one day, if I have a time, I can come to your studio and I will prove to you that they are doing a lot. But listen, you know the country we are in. If the national teams are not doing well, whatever you will do, they will talk about it. So it's a problem is transition, how we transit players from the junior national team to the Blasters. and the quick solutions we want. Listen, some years back, we have a history of how we do our national team. From the 17 and the 20 and the 23, then you have like 2 or 3 or 4 players that every time there's this transition to the national team itself.
Do you think that this FA, this current FA, is doing that? The transition?
No, but it didn't start from this current FA. It's been there for like more than, after our time from the 20, where we have 7 of us promoted to the Blasters. From there, I think the under 20 that went to Turkey. I forgot that year. They also have like 4 today. From there, like 9 or 8 years now, there's no better transition. But you can't blame the FA entirely, because you need to blame a lot of the agents as well. Well, once the player comes back from a national team game, then they need to rush him to go to Europe. Yes, of course, there is life after football, and you need to secure that kind of life. You need, incentives and stuff. You have a family at home to feed. So there will be a lot of rush to send the player outside. But maybe he is not ripe for that stage. So after the league, you rush him, he goes, then his career dip. How can you have a transition to the national team? So normally we blame the FA, but not entirely the problem of the FA. Some of the agents, we rush the players outside and their career start being unbalanced like this, and you don't have it. So once we are appealing to the FA for that transition, we need to appeal to the parents and the agents that you need to have them. See someone like Jerry Free right now. He plays for 2nd division team, and they are calm with him now. He's been with the Blasters. He's been with the local Blasters. The moment he gets a club in Europe, you have the experience to play any game, because he have been in the Blasters and he have that kind of character and mentality that you used to play for the national teams, and he won't have any problem. So if the FA is not doing it, it's not entirely about the FA. It's the agents and the family that take care of the players as well.
To the Ghana Premier League, and Midiama Sporting Club missed out on the chance to go 3rd on the table after playing out a 1-1 draw with Nswaterman in an outstanding fixture. Kingsley Braye, he opened the scoring for the Miners before Isaka Mohammed restored parity as both sides shared the spoils. Now, the FA Cup comes off this weekend as lower division side Accelerates FC are confident of shocking Asante Kotoko to book a spot in the round of 16. My colleague with Love FM in Kumasi, Steven Zando, visited their training ground and has more in this report.
The Ghana Premier League will be on break this weekend across the various centres here in the country, paving way for the MTN FA Cup competition, We are the last 32 stage. For those of us here in Kumasi, on Sunday, 12 January 2025 at the Babayara Sports Stadium, that place will be the center of attraction when Kotoko is not playing at home. In fact, they are playing as the away team this time around against a Division 2 side, Accelerate FC. They are hosting Asante Kotoko at the Babayara Sports Stadium in the last 32 stage of the MTN FA Cup competition. I must tell you that they are well motivated ahead of this big clash on Sunday. And I had a conversation with their head coach and their captain as well. But first of all, I want you to listen to their head coach, Obed Aduboy, who is full of confidence ahead of the big game against Asante Kotoko. He's assuring the people of Ghana that they are going to beat Kotoko on Sunday, and their aim is to qualify to the last 16 stage of the MTN FA Cup competition.
We are 11 against 11 we are going to play. We move Asante Kotoko aside, the name Asante Kotoko, we move it aside, then we play 11 against 11 against them. They should expect a good football and a win from us.
You are beating Kotoko?
Yeah, we are qualifying to a run of 16. No doubt.
And what have you seen?
No, because Kotoko have a quality players and experienced players. We too, we have a talented players and quality players.
That was head coach of Accelerate FC, Obed Aduboy, speaking to Joyce Pauls ahead of their MTN FA Cup game against Kotoko on Sunday. We also had a conversation with the captain of the team, Nana Oseitutu, who is a centre-back, and he has assured fans of the club that they should be at the Babayara Sports Stadium on Sunday to support the club to victory, because that is the assurance they are giving to their fans that they're going to beat Kotoko and their aim is to qualify. It doesn't matter how they do it, the end result they are expecting is to qualify to the last 16 stage of the MTN FA Cup competition. And they are not just saying that. In fact, they have prepared well for the game. They are well motivated for the big game against Asante Kotoko.
There's a first time to everything, and it's about all you have to do is your confidence, train hard, work hard, and you're going to face them and play according to instructions, and I'm good to go. Yeah.
Are you winning on Sunday?
We are winning on Sunday. We are going into this game with two motives. It's either we win or we qualify. We are going into the round of 16.
Today's training was all fun for Accelerate FC. Accelerate FC is a Division 2 club. At the moment, they are leading the Division 2 Zone 4 league at the moment. And I must tell you, they are playing so well. And that is why the spotlight on this game at the Babayara Sports Stadium against Asante Kotoko. It is the MTN FA Cup competition, and we are the last 32 stage. It is going to be an interesting game, and that is why they are inviting fans to throng the Babayara Sports Stadium to watch good football between Accelerate FC and Asante Kotoko. It is Dr. Prosper Gumnate versus Obed Aduboy. My name is Stephen Izando for Joy Sports.
Meanwhile, Hearts of Oak take on Home Stars, but will not have the services of midfielder Sani Mohammed. The Phobians announced his transfer to Danish side AC Horsens. The 18-year-old signed a 2.5-year deal with a transfer fee reportedly worth €250,000. Mohammed joined Hearts before the start of the 2024-25 season, signing from Soccer for Souls in August. He has made 13 appearances and registered 2 assists in that period.
Welcome back to the AM show, and this is our big story segment. Now, we'll be taking a look at that 21 African heads of state with international guests, including 3 vice presidents, 4 ministers, and 24 envoys who were all present in the country for President John Dramani Mahama's swearing-in ceremony, demonstrating a huge diplomatic applause for Ghana's democratic transition. But what does the visit of these African and international dignitaries mean for our foreign policy and security? And of course, John Dramani Mahama's potential role in the geopolitical space. Samuel Kojo Braze and I are here steering the conversations, but joining us in studio is Dr. Ishmael Ni Amano Dodu. He's former senior UN diplomat, Executive Office of UN Secretary General and UNDP Africa Bureau. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you on the AM show.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to see you as well. And Happy New Year to both of you.
Yeah, many happy returns.
Many happy returns, yes. But we'll start this conversation by bringing in Dr. Enin. He has also written on, especially the security bit of what happened on the inauguration day. He's not been too excited by how, you know, the security forces allowed the Burkinabe leader to go and greet the President John Dramani Mahama with his gun strapped to his waist. But aside that, he also has a lot of things about Ghana's role in the security of the sub-region and all of that. Let's start with him. Professor Enning is someone that has a lot to share when it comes to security. He's a security consultant, and we're glad to have him on the show this morning. Prof, good morning to you.
You have to unmute for us.
Unmute so we can hear you.
All these modern technologies and
right.
Good morning to you, and a very happy New Year to you and your listeners.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, we've been following an article you've written, and Suti is quite interested in that particular one, especially with regards to the leader of Burkina Faso going to President Dramani Mahama with his gun to his waist.
Yeah. Prof, we just want to find out, first of all, what is the danger there? I mean, reactions are pouring in that it didn't matter because nothing really happened. But what is the danger then? What security protocols did we breach?
Well, I mean, it's not so much an actual danger as protocols around visiting heads of states and those who protect them bearing arms. The normal routine is that, yes, the security detail of a president will travel with him, but they will leave the guns on the plane after having declared them to the receiving country's security. The security counts, the receiving country's security forces are duty bound to protect the visiting head of state.
Okay.
You know, so it is not so much as to whether it is part of his sartorial taste or that there were no bullets in it. No, there were almost about 20 other heads of states present. And had they all come bearing guns, I mean, that would have changed the tenor of the ceremony. So I think we should be bold enough to admit in resetting the country when we make mistakes that, hang on, you know, this was an oversight. We ought to have insisted that he shouldn't come bearing a gun. Traore being in Accra was a great coup for Mahama and his team. So much as we are concerned about the gun issue, that should not deflect us from the importance of this man's presence after the disastrous attempt at selling him out in Washington by the former president.
Okay, and you also said that this should not happen again. I'm quoting you. And he said, we have to consider the circumstances under which this happened. The argument that this was part of his uniform does not hold at all. I just, for the purposes of education, you mentioned that the guns were supposed to be checked on the plane and all that. Under the circumstances, what was the ideal situation? Should they have removed the guns from him before approaching the president? What's the ideal thing that we should have done?
Now, we know that Traore has a particular sartorial style, in which, for the purposes of the security situation in Burkina Faso, I think he has experienced about 4 or 5 assassination attempts in Burkina Faso, that there's a heightened sense around his personal security. So he's used to traveling with his gun. But let's not forget that probably this is just about the 2nd or 3rd country Traore has ever visited, because of the international opprobrium around how he came to power. You know, that being the case, those who handled the protocol around these presidential visits for the inauguration ought to have laid down some clear red lines that this is how we do business in Ghana. You know, so all this pussyfooting, trying to find excuses, does not wash. Look, let's get things done properly on the basis of correct risk assessment and make the firm decisions in our interest as a sovereign country. Okay, let this be a lesson that those around the president who seem to project this new vision of a reset must do things properly.
Right. I know Kojo wants to come to you in terms of something that...
even on this, yes, because Colonel Festus Abuaje quite shares a different perspective that, well, it wasn't anything we should worry about, you know, that, look, even when the guy, the Bawa Mukhtari yesterday was telling us about the applause that the guy even received. Yeah. So you were going to look at that and not really about the gun strapped to his waist. And so it's much ado about nothing. We still talk about it. Prof, I don't know. This is your colleague consultant who feels that, I mean, there's nothing really seriously wrong about what happened, so we should let it slide. Your thoughts?
No. The applause that Traore got was about his politics, about his transformative agenda for Burkina Faso, his role in the Accra Initiative, his magnanimity in accepting President Mahama's invitation to come to Accra after Ghana nearly sold him out to the United States. You know, so I'm also in full agreement that the gun issue should not let us overlook the importance of his presence and the way that we need to rebuild our relationship with Burkina Faso. After, I mean, if you can play that clip from the United States, where President Akufo-Addo sought to sell Burkina Faso out. I mean, that in international relations. And I think my brother is in the studio. So, no. Okay. But for him to accept to come back also shows the dexterity with which President Mahama, after winning the elections in December last year, then traveled around the sub-region, sent his emissaries to begin the process of rebuilding connections and bridges. So the gun issue is actually very minute in terms of the significance of his presence.
Okay. Now, I bring a quote from him. He says, quote, all the diplomatic level, when a head of state like Captain Traore has been invited, his protocol, state protocol, and Ghana's protocol, foreign affairs to foreign affairs, would have discussed how this head of state was going to attend the ceremony. Dressed in his normal camouflage and carrying his sidearm, he explained. Do you agree with his assertion that this could probably be a prearranged, something that happened?
Look, I truly worry when people are unable to say, oh, I think this is a slip. That we could have done it much better. All heads of states have huge egos. They want to be treated in particular ways. And I'm sure issues around the size of the delegation, the type of vehicles they want, all those things are discussed. The gun issue was unfortunate. It was improper. And it mustn't happen again.
Okay.
We can't afford to have either people who have guns on them purely for demonstrative reasons to do so. Let's not forget, and I've said this, Ghana's leadership of ECOWAS was particularly disastrous. When an ECOWAS emergency meeting took place, I think at the Pediatric Lodge, and people, military leaders, I think from Burkina Faso and Mali, came to the meeting in their military fatigues. They were kicked out and told to go and wear civilian clothes. That was when they passed through the late President J.J. Rawlings' house, and he told them, you do or you wear what you think it is proper. So we shouldn't, try to look for excuses around this. But I want to make it clear that Traore's presence goes beyond the gun. His presence was much more important. So I think I've said my piece around this. Yeah. I want to look at the bigger, better, more important issues. That I think.
So we'll come there. We'll come to, I mean, rebuilding the security of the sub-region and the role Ghana has to play in it.
Right.
But let's come to...
Yeah, Dr. Dodo, although we want to discuss Ghana's geopolitical standing, I do want to take a quick reflection on this matter before we get incisive with geopolitics. What did you make of this situation? In fact, when I watched the video, I missed the gun because the demeanor of Traore was very humbling. He took off his cap, went to shake Professor Jane, fist bumped the speaker. It didn't give any sense of threats or anything like that. But I don't know what you make of the whole situation.
Right. I was actually sitting in the same days with the diplomatic community as he arrived. And his entrance was very eroding. So you have a situation where it was almost like, oh, wow, this man is here. And then I saw his bodyguards. They came in with the guns, interacting with a vast majority of the dignitaries that was there. I also missed the gun part.
Okay.
But I hear what Professor Kwesiane is saying, that there are standards and decorum around heads of state and how you treat them. And particularly when you are the host, you need to uphold those standards. So this may be a bit of an oversight, but it could also be a bit of euphoria, or people were just excited about the whole fact that he accepted the invitation to come in. He was, if you remember, he was the last head of state to arrive and to join the whole program. So I think that would have been the issue. But then, one of the other side of it, though, is Ghana is reasserting its leadership in the sub-region in terms of what we stand for as geopolitical leader. I know we go there. So the first impressions are very important. The question is, would you accept somebody who is not an elected head of state, but is a military man, and he is in his military demeanor, and he's coming to your occasion? Would you accept him the way he is? Because that is also a political statement.
Okay.
He would have chosen to remove his guns to come, but he also entered, so, okay, let me test how this man... And John Mahama, I believe, His Excellency John Mahama, they may... Even though this may be an oversight, it may play well for us in a sense that he will go back thinking, this guy is not judging me like the ECOWAS commissioners did. And he's an open-minded person that I can have a conversation with and try to deal with my issue. If you speak with them, I was in the Sahel region when these things happened, and the anger in the population to kick against, the imperialism of France and their dominance of their economy and their politics. The population, for the first time, were hailing coup d'etat rather than a democratic, elections. And at the same time, you have organs such as, Organization United Nations and others who were kicked out more or less from the political discourse about what needs to happen with the country.
Right.
So there is that thing about a whole creation of Traore and his Sahelian Mali Niger, a Syrian fraternity, that we have to be very careful about how to manage it. And I believe that His Excellency, even though we may, this may be an oversight and something we shouldn't uphold, and I hear my big brother, Prof. Kwesiane, and I really, really salute him for that. I believe that it will play well for us in a sense that it will send a strong signal to say, listen, I am open-minded, I understand the complexities of the geopolitics around, I know we are all not on the same page, but I'm willing to reset these relationships and make it work for us. And I believe he will go home thinking, this is a very smart president. That's what I believe.
But I mean, you're also looking at the message you send out there. Yep. With what ECOWAS did was, in their mind, trying to, send a signal to other people that you cannot do what they've done. Now, in the same way, if we say, okay, send a strong signal by thinking that we're open-minded, isn't it also sending a signal to other people in other countries that, well, you can still do a coup and come and mingle with the democratically elected.
I actually disagree with that.
Okay.
Because when you look at ECOWAS and its structure and all the things that ECOWAS stands for, upholding democracy, strengthening international cooperations around the regions, setting standards for how politics, economics, and everything should be working. In fact, ECOWAS is more about economic commission of West African state. It has turned into be more of a political stalwart rather than, a state. Yeah. And also, ECOWAS is actually a voluntary organization that people would say, okay, we want to work together, put our differences aside and see what we can leverage together. Now, democracy has not yielded the dividends that we expect. All across the sub-region, people are very tired of what democracy is bringing to them. And when you particularly look at the Sahel region or the Francophone countries, they feel the dominance of their colonial power, which is France. And along France comes with, other countries within European Union. And when you look at the structure of the economy and politics, it's largely influenced by these entities to the disenchantment of the population. So there's a lot, we have to interrogate what we mean by good governance, what we mean by democracy, and how it should play out in our settings, in our sub-regional settings. Because the population don't feel that, by and large, in our politics is providing the dividends that they needed. So they are questioning that. So there's a lot of that questioning. You would imagine in some political discourse there's a conversation about rethinking our democracy, rethinking our democratic governance, rethinking how we actually engage our political leadership. And there are a lot of questions coming around. Why? Because we have very young population who perhaps are not attuned to political historical realms. And all they are saying is the last 5 years. And so people like Traore reflects their sentiments and reflect the type of politics that they want to see. So it's a chicken and egg situation to see John Mahama's team saying, okay, strip them off. They will not come. But you also want to accept them for who they are, and then you can have an open conversation about some of the standards and the norms that you want to look at.
So that will be a bit on security, right? But I want to open the conversation up now in terms of everything that we saw, particularly with those 21 African heads of state.
So they will come there.
Right.
But earlier he made a point, and we have to do that and bring in Professor Aini, and then we can go to where you want us to go. But you said that Ghana is asserting its leadership on the geopolitical space on the African continent. Did we lose it?
Let's be very frank with ourselves. I mean, Professor Ene was mentioning that tape, of our president literally sending out our neighbors. It's not the right thing to do. In fact, when that happened, I got a lot of calls from some of my colleagues, not in West Africa alone, but East and Southern Africa. So what is happening? You cannot say that. If there's an issue, it's your neighbor. You can sit down and talk about it. Now, throughout the former president's tenure, and he's a very strong, powerful, experienced person within international realm. So I was expecting that the former president, Ronaldo, would have done very well in terms of handling some of these geopolitical issues. If you look at the transition between the father of Foreign Yasimbe Yadima and his son, the way he handled that particular transition was very helpful, because the whole Togo was going to blow up under the circumstances. It was very, he played that with great wisdom. Now, the same thing happened, when you look at what's happening in the Sahel region, it's extremely complex, extremely multidimensional. It is not just terrorists. It has to do with post-colonial sentiments. It has to be neoliberalization. It has to do with youth, trying to state their place in the political economy of the country. It has many, many dimensions to it. So, and then you also have the international pose of China and Russia versus United States and their politics as well. So this geopolitical situation, if you put all together and you have an opportunity to talk about what is happening in your backyard, you have to be very wise in the way you articulate it. And he just sold out a neighbor and said, well, come and, deal with it. And then at the same time, when the coup d'etat happened, we knew that coup d'etat would happen in Mali. In fact, we knew the coup d'etat would have happened in Burkina. We have the intelligence. And Ghana has very strong intelligence. We knew the coup d'etat would happen in Niger. It should have happened earlier than even it happened. We knew, we were just waiting, and Prof will tell you, we're waiting for this.
And nothing could have been done to avert it.
Well, so leadership. In the past, Ghana could convene all these three people, because, we have Nigerians who are here. If you go to Zamama line, these are Nigerians. Yeah. We have Nigerians who are trading our onions and control probably 80% of our onion trade. Burkina Faso was giving us 60-70% of our tomatoes. Kansanense, Kusasis, and these are all people that are belonging to the same tribal fraternity. So coming in and having leadership conversations about, hey, this is what we could have done. You will hear the Nigerians when the coup d'etat happened, they were even saying, nobody listened to us, and all we could hear was go and bomb them.
Okay.
So I think that we lost our space in political leadership, and we ceded it, to Francophones who actually the population don't even want.
Interesting perspective here. Professor Kwesieni, I mean, you earlier started talking about that thing that former President Akufo-Addo did, which was wrong. But didn't he do that as a firm believer in democracy, feeling that, well, we cannot encourage other people to go about staging coups in their countries, and that's why he took that particular posture against what had happened in Burkina Faso and other countries where there had been coups?
No. And I'll be very blunt here. The type of governance that we had in Ghana could only continue and was not wronged because we have an armed forces that is highly educated, very nuanced in understanding the politics of the country and the conviction that the power of the thumb is greater than the gun. That is what saved the kind of disastrous governance that we have experienced in the last 8 years. And when this assertion or this attempt at selling out Burkina Faso was exposed, here I want to mention two people. General Edouard Manfo, who headed the Accra Initiative Secretariat, and the National Security Minister, Mr. Kandapa, who showed extreme maturity and presence of mind in knowing the disastrous potential consequences of that attempt to sell out. The selling out was also an attempt to divert attention from the fact that Ghana's leadership of ECOWAS had been utterly disastrous. That we had not shown the sensitivity and the willingness to listen to the intelligence force. And I remember when the second Burkinabe coup happened, there was an ECOWAS meeting in Accra. And my first statement was, every single ECOWAS head of state present must then sack his intelligence chiefs. Because civil society knew there was something wrong. Academics knew there was something wrong. Dr. Dodu and his development agencies knew there was something wrong. The analysis were in abundance. ECOWAS from Abuja demonstrated such a cluelessness that it was just shocking. After the first Burkina coup, ECOWAS sent some of its representatives to Abuja, and they were nearly lynched Because as Dr. Dodo correctly says, there is this upsurge of youth agency and an anger that we have a gerontocratic set of political leaders who have lost touch with the reality on the subject. But Mr. Akufo-Addo didn't seek to sell out Burkina Faso because he loved democracy. Far from it.
Okay.
When the Guinean president was overthrown, is it Condé or Conte? A man who had looted the resources out of from the bauxite boom. The president and Ouattara went to Conakry to speak to Doumbouya and to plead with Doumbouya for him to release the president. They were chased out of Conakry. Okay, so when Dr. Dodo says we are reasserting our leadership, that is true. If you've got the tapes, probably one day you can bring all these old tapes and show. When President Akufo-Addo, in the heydays of his early rule, spoke to the French president and told him to his face that he was moving Ghana beyond aid, the whole of the African continent said, yes, that is the man. Who dares look at France and tell them some home truths? Was it a political game? Was it sincere? Or it was just to throw dust into our eyes? So the notion of reassertion is very key. Because Mahama speaks about the rising Black Star. President Tinubu says, I will walk with you. President Tinubu realizes that any drive to deepen Nigerians' hegemony will need Ghana's consistent and unflinching support. But Traore and Niger and Mali have started a process that most people dismissed in the beginning. Their capacity to tell France to get the hell out of their countries. Right now, Chad, an old friend of France, have told them, you've got to move your troops. Senegal has said the same thing. La Côte d'Ivoire, Mr. Ouattara, a die-in-the-wool francophone, has also said, please move your troops. We are beginning to see a certain agency manifesting itself. The question now is, how do we harness this in the midst of the problems that Dr. Dodo has mentioned? Multidimensional, consistently shifting and changing and transforming issues of youth, climate, migration, all this coming together in very complex forms. But not only that, my final point, there are existing relationships that span hundreds of years. When we talk migration, and people always wonder, but how can people cross the desert and then try to get into Europe? Because the existing trans-Saharan trade routes are still known by people. So Dr. Dodo speaks about the Zamrama people. They don't only do currency, but most of the maize in Ghana, the maize trade is controlled by them. Likewise, the onion trade. We have the Burkinabes bringing us tomatoes and cattle. We have the Malians bringing us cattle. The biggest single cattle market in West Africa is at Fada in Guma, in Burkina Faso. So when Akufo-Addo sought to sell Burkina Faso, he forgot that a lot of the cattle that we eat actually is coming from the Fada and Guma market. Okay, so the levels of already existing interconnections are so key. But to be able to translate the president's vision of a Pan-Africanist, integrationist sub-region. And I think we need to come back to these three countries that are leaving ECOWAS, and how do we bring them back? We need a team in the foreign ministry, bold, daring to do the analysis, but also to tell Mr. President, this is the way we need to go.
What keeps ringing in my head now is how then do we reconcile, Professor Ini, is that you say that our leadership at ECOWAS has been disastrous.
Yes.
Doc, you're also saying that we are reasserting our leadership. But we saw so many African head of states, not just in Africa, we saw other international diplomats, so to speak, coming here. How do we reconcile our current status, whether we are failing, now coming back on track, and then the numbers that we saw? What does it mean for our influence on the international diplomatic community?
First of all, diplomacy has language. And the first language that you can say you normally get is perception. In my reading of what happened, when I saw 21 head of state and a list and the envoys that came, and then some of the envoys are special envoys on particular issues. Sahel envoys were there, special envoys on trade relations. So when you look at the envoys that came and the themes which they follow, in economics, in trade, in politics, and so on, it just tells you that the diplomatic community have lost touch with some of these key connectivities that we do have previously with the African continent, in particular the West African continent. And therefore, they are saying in John Mahama, through his engagement before the elections, remember that he travels a lot to European Union, he engaged in peace and security matters. He was actually an envoy of the African Union Peace and Security and so on. So they do see that this is a man who can bring some solutions to what they're looking for, and which is really important for us. Now we can come back to how we can leverage that. But for now, I'm just creating the perceptions. Yeah. So they see in him a man with some solutions that can deal with some of these issues, climate security, injustice, economic challenges, and so on and so forth, and how the world can engage West Africa in particular. If you look at in economics, for example, the West African market in the next 10 years could be probably $1.3 trillion. If you look at the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and we want to really leverage the market, it's going to be incredibly powerful. And there's aging population in the European Union, and our population are made of youth. This speaks to, if we leverage ourselves, our human capital strategy well, we'll have the kind of talents that they will need versus the market potential that they will need. So there could be a reversal of trade. So everybody is also looking at that from that perspective. Then you have the whole issue around politics. How do you stabilize the fragilities in the sub-region? Togo is there, it's still not very, it's still fragile in terms of its politics. You also have the spread of the terrorism, not just on the coastline, but also in certain parts of the north. Then you have the situation of Mali, Niger, Burkina that has not been properly stabilized. Côte d'Ivoire is right there. Senegal is, rocking the bull. We have so many things, so the sub-region is noisy. And they see in John Mahama as someone who can help to stabilize this
So they didn't see this in Akufo-Addo?
No, not at all. But and so they came in to make a statement in solidarity. You remember, even the United States has to send a number of envoys to come, including the ambassador to the United Nations, who has served in Liberia during the reconstruction of the Liberian War. After the war, during the reconstruction, that's when I worked very closely with the team. And she led the charge to come. So it's quite exciting. There's a lot of expectations. So I believe that His Excellency John Mahama has all these international expectations and also the expectations of Ghanaians. And as Prof. Kwesinin said, how how is it going to really manage this in terms of the team that he puts together within the foreign ministry, who are very well versed, you should be well versed in the complexities and multidimensional nature of these particular issues, so that we can come out with a kind of a foreign policy vision that would inform his engagement in all these realms. And if we do it well, Ghana is going to really become powerful. I mean, you're trying to push an economy, 24-hour economy and accelerated export promotion. And then you have the international realms also working with. It means that countries would want to look at trade. We're going to have a lot of foreign direct investment coming in because they can see Ghana as the headquarters, which is stable, and they can leverage the opportunities in other countries. It's going to be beautiful, but extremely challenging.
But so, does it mean the world was angry or not happy with the Akufo-Addo government?
To be blunt, I'm going the word of prophecy. We have to be very blunt in order to be able to.
Yes.
I mean, some of the vibes that you get internationally is not very healthy. You have some countries literally saying, "Don't do any business with the country, with Ghana."
Wow.
Yeah, literally. And people are not very sure of what we mean by Pan-Africanism. And when you hear that we are reasserting the Black Star, it's a statement to say, look, we're still there. The lion may be sleeping, but he could wake up. You know, and the reset is a powerful
but
statement.
what reason were they given for saying don't do business with Ghana? Because we saw the year of return, and the sort of people it brought in, even beyond the return, the sort of people it brought in. So how do we juxtapose the two? That the world was angry to, with Ghana, but we still saw some numbers flowing into Ghana.
Or was that just for the entertaining benefit?
No, it was I would describe the country then as being an enigmatic era, in a sense that it's a sour and taste situation. Whilst people want to really settle here for the iconic reasons of what Ghana represents, the slave trade and coming back and so on, the year of return and the way they also I will say that the way they handled the year of return was fantastic.
Okay.
You know, very well thought through, brought in a lot of, people here.
So that's some credits to the Akufo-Addo.
No, it was, the very, very interesting strategy, and that could have translated into serious foreign direct investment in the country. But when you look at the year of return, all the euphoria around it, and the number of people that visited, over 2 million, I think, that visited the country, comparing that with our foreign direct investment was gradually going down. So it didn't really translate into any economic benefits as you would expect, all right? At the same time, you have a country which is ransacked by, galamsey issue, and they can see all these things. Now, you affect your rivers, which is now, linking to the seas and on all these spectacles around that. Then we're also doing nothing to assert our leadership to deal with the complexity of the issues in the Sahel region. So people are watching.
Right.
And this is why a lot of businesses came and went out.
Okay.
And do you know where they relocated to?
Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
And so today you go to Ivory Coast, whilst we're suffering, for the past 8 years, the rate of economic growth in Ivory Coast is incredible. And it is translated into food security to a large extent, tourism to a large extent. Services in the digital realm is increasing in Ivory Coast. You see Societe Generale closing its shops and actually expanding in Ivory Coast because it makes geopolitical sense to do that. It's a special geolocation. If I can't pitch my headquarters in Ghana, I can pitch in Ivory Coast and still link the markets there. So people were thinking. People were thinking we didn't run this country. So that's what really happened. And so it matters. No country today can thrive without understanding its geopolitical intricacies.
Right.
You really need to be smart about it.
Now, based on what you've said, in 2017, Akufo-Addo had similar sort of, you know, how do you say it?
Diplomatic goodwill?
Yeah, overwhelming welcome from the world.
Okay.
Right. Professor Eni referred to his speech with the France president, where he said certain things that Africa became. But from what you said, he lost it. How can the John Mahama administration protect the sort of gains we've seen them make, even at the inauguration, such that it doesn't turn the sort of story we had in the past, 8 years?
Yeah, but this is a very good question. I think that, first of all, President John Mahama needs to frame a very strong geopolitical vision or international relations vision that should guide the way he actually engages with different countries. A lot of things have changed. To answer this question, it is important for us to preface it around how the world is changing. We are seeing the shiftings in realms of power. And this is even displayed in the United Nations Security Council and how they vote. So you have certain powers, countries that become very powerful. So you have the China, you have the Indians, you have the Brazil, of course, the Russian with his own.
In fact, the president made a very clever reference to this.
You know, and all these are creating a club to the extent that the Russians are able to try to rejuvenate the Eurasian component. And then China is building a strategic relationship and strengthening it with over 36 to 40 African countries, talking about trade, talking about security exchange, talking about digital security, cyber security, artificial intelligence, talking about technology transfer and things like that. So you are torn as a country. And then you have the election of President Trump, who wants to have a transactional relations with Africa, and whatever that means. If you are smart and you can propose a value, you can get value proposition to Trump, you'll be able to get the massive foreign direct investments that you're looking at. Then you have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which provides tremendous opportunities for trillions and trillions of dollars. Then you have Ghana in its special geolocation within West Africa. You know, equidistant to Europe, to South America, and then you have the sea. And then you are having strategic natural resources emerging from your countries, lithium, which are very important for digital economy, corpus and so on. So you need to think about how you can structure a foreign policy that will help you to leverage all these relationships. The presence of 21 head of state tells you that you have 21 markets potentially. All right? How can you frame? So Ghana must be known for something. If Rwanda is known for coffee, beside cocoa, what else can we be known for?
Gold.
Maybe you can, gold maybe, but maybe you can look at lithium. Can we become the hub that will extract, process lithium for the digital economy? Is it possible for us to have the chips manufacturing project for Africa being located in Ghana? Is it possible? These are some of the questions you need to have. Can you look at the cashew market, some of your cash crops, and how you can turn them into
finished products
that can produce to meet your security needs, but also supply to the rest? Can you look at the grain sector? You know, we have to seriously take the country and start planning for how we create wealth, tremendous wealth for the country. And doing this will require being very innovative. There's also the opportunity to look at some other sources of funds that are coming. When Akufo-Addo talk about Ghana Beyond Aid, it should be thinking more about innovative financing streams, such as SDG bonds, climate finance, carbon credit, all these all these billions of dollars that are going to come on the back.
We're making some money from carbon credits, for example.
Well, then the question then you have to do is, okay, you make the money, where do you put it? How do you put it to create more wealth for it? We have to think about how we manage our financings and how we allocate them to stimulate more wealth for ourselves. The type of industries or sectors that we want to grow, that will be very relevant to what the world wants. It's all about your value proposition to the world and how to attract it.
Okay.
And Ghana can do that. Ghana can really, really do that. But this has to be framed around a vision that you have to implement. And we have to be very disciplined in our implementation.
You've spoken about clarity and vision and all that. And what I'm hearing is that John Mahama is currently enjoying some beautiful diplomatic goodwill, right? In as much as we need to translate all these into economic liberation for the people of Ghana, there are also competing interests, the G7, BRICS and all that. How does this administration navigate in terms of aligning or not aligning, but taking advantage of these interests and what they offer us without losing our sovereignty, without, going cup in hand and saying, and then they say that, okay, in order for us to help you, give us something that would turn out to be bad for us as a sovereignty. How do we actually navigate that? And I do want to tease your brains a bit because I know you're an expert in this field. So as specific as possible, what kind of foreign policy should we be pursuing? That does not sell the country to foreign powers.
Right, especially when we operate with a non-alignment policy.
Yes,
because as you said, the BRICS are growing up, the G7 are dwindling in GDP, as the president said. But we also have this so what do we do based on what?
How do we actually navigate this without losing our heads?
Yeah, I think that it's a very complicated situation, and so you have to be very deliberate in the choices you make. So the first thing that I before I come to the foreign policy strategy, the first thing that I think that we need to do as a country is really to understand the interest of these entities. Why are they coming? What is necessitating their emergence? What do they want versus what you want? And then you can have a mutual relationship. So I would encourage that within our foreign affairs policy, we should have a strategic policies for engaging the BRICS, which is unique and bespoke to that. At the same time, we should have strategic policies for engaging every single country within West Africa. Strategic policy for engaging ECOWAS. It is not, we cannot be lazy about this.
It's not a one-size-fits-all.
No. So you have to be very intentional about what you do with it, and it has to be a mutual policy. That is what most of the developed countries actually do. When they come to your country, when the UK is here, they have a strategic cooperation framework, which is very clear to your country. We must do the same. We must not ride behind ECOWAS, regional blocs, as we have done before. Everyone must look after themselves.
Okay.
Really, if you stand on your feet, then you can provide the leadership that is needed. And you can bring the Liberia, the Sierra Leone and others along who will look up to you as their big brother. But you must stand. So individual bespoke policies need to be pursued. That will be our first biggest policy strategy framework. That we are prosecuting a foreign relations policy which has something in it for regional blocs, for individual countries and so on. And we know exactly what we are doing. And must also have strategic policy around how do we bring in the diaspora as well. That needs to be, and we need to that would be the biggest. But then our international relations policy must first and foremost look at our economic diplomacy. It's all about economics. For the mutual interest of building our economy, creating jobs, and making us very, very sustainable. All right. The other point is we need to look at our food sovereignty. Not food security, food sovereignty. We must be able to produce our own food that we can eat and have surplus for manufacturing. And if that means that Ghana could become an extension of manufacturing, industrial manufacturing setup for our neighbors, whereas the tomatoes will be produced in Burkina, and we will we will process the tomato paste. And if that's what we need to do, let's do it. How do we have a relationship with Togo that leverages our economies of scale? A relationship with Côte d'Ivoire that leverages our economy of scale. We have to be extremely intentional about that. That should be our foreign relations policy as well. How do we then lead, connect to ECOWAS? What's our standpoint? Are we going to become a leader that would bring everybody together? They don't agree, but when you convene, you always can get something that will protect you. And that should be wrapped around security. We need to keep our ECOWAS stable. Then look at the issues of governance. How do we rethink our democratic governance? What new could we bring to strengthen our democratic norms, the things that did not work and the things that work? How do we make sure that we get to a point where we are not beginning to see the 1980s coup d'etat as they were emerging again? And you make some contribution to some of those things. So those are the things, in a nutshell, that I think are the key elements that should advise our foreign relations.
Okay.
I'm curious to hear from
more like building on how Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire is tackling the cocoa industry. We decided that, well, we want to come together because we are the two leading producers. We'll go into the world market and demand for what they have to give us. So maybe building on that, but very, very interesting points there.
Prof. Saini, let's hear your thoughts. I know the conversation has advanced. I'm sure you have some thoughts to share as well.
Well, I think Dr. Dodo started his submission by using the word, a lot of noise has been made in Accra. You know, noise also has quality and can be disaggregated. The razzmatazz of the last 8 years must shift to noise underpinned by knowledge. And that is what Dr. Dodo has been talking about. How do we disaggregate our friends and be context specific in dealing with these countries? And when I say knowledge is key, closely related to that is that leadership is key. So if you look at what, or listen to what Dr. Dodo is saying, the economy is going to play a very big role. This almost reminds me of President Kufuor when he came to power in 2001 and made economic security or economic diplomacy the hub of his government. And some of the great speeches that Akman Oswajima gave around economic diplomacy. So we need a finance minister and a finance ministry attuned to doing things differently. But we also need a foreign ministry that is just not interested in the razzmatazz of whining, dining, and dancing and big empty talk, flowery language. We need a foreign ministry that meshes with the economic side, but also with the defense side. So were you to ask, and I'm hoping, but I know it will not happen, the appointments committee in Parliament, the new ninth Parliament, when people are brought forward, and they were questioned, people from the sensitive ministries, why do we do things the way we don't? What drives Ghana's policy when the foreign minister goes to ECOWAS, to African Union, and says the things that they say? What is it that drives them? And you will be shocked that there is not a single policy document that says this is Ghana's stance. I challenged a foreign minister several years ago, and I said, look, you've come to my institute, you've said all these things. What is the basis? And of course, this minister said, oh, of course, those who wrote the speech, no, I mean, it's Ghana's position. After 2-3 months, this minister came back and said, look, there is no document. We don't have a policy document that says when it comes to the environment and we go to ECOWAS, this is where we stand. This is how our policy, or this is what our policy is based on. So together with 1 or 2 people, then wrote a policy for Ghana with respect to ECOWAS. We ought to have done it with the African Union, UN. And Dr. Dodu will tell you this. You go to a lot of meetings where our positions flip-flop, okay? So what we are asking for is that then there's the need for a much more targeted, deliberate analysis and understanding of what we want. The European Union is a huge set of countries. I think Bulgaria and Romania have just joined us up. You know, we cannot treat the European Union as the homogeneous and yes, we're a member of ECOWAS, but different ECOWAS countries have different policies. If we take Togo, for example, most ECOWAS countries have decided that, you know, the AES countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, are under sanctions. But Togo has calculated what is national interest and reduced the demurrage charges for these, you know, 3 countries, and actually gave them a leeway of 40 days to pay their taxes and their debt. You see, and that is what leadership and knowledge is about. Knowing how to differentiate between different countries and where the national interest lies. Furthermore, I think we've spoken about our inability to gain something from the year of Ray 10. The larger project was called the Joseph Project, you know, initiated by Jake Obechebi, you know,
I see.
But characteristic of the way we do our business, it is a personalized and not institutionalized process. So people come and decide that, oh, this is the elephant's tail, oh, this is the trunk, oh, that is the horn, oh, that is the nose, and then just run off with it. Resetting, and I agree with Dr. Dodu, it's a very powerful, positive word. Okay, how do we do that? It cannot and must not be done in a haphazard manner. President Mahama has been the chair of the Tana Forum. The Tana Forum is a gathering of Africa's brightest minds in Ethiopia every single year. And Mahama has chaired this, or President Mahama has chaired this for the past 5-6 years. So the people who care have shared several views, ideas, and then thoughts. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
I know that right now, the man can barely get probably 8 hours of sleep because everyone wants to get a job.
Yeah.
But you know, Ghana has changed. West Africa has changed. The Sahel has changed, and Africa has changed. And I said this on the 8th to the president-elect, now the president. There is only a tiny window of delivering on his promises. The 26 points in his social contract with Ghana must deliver. His team must now be thinking, what and where are the low-hanging fruits that we can demonstrate very quickly that we mean business? Dr. Dodu has mentioned the Galamsey, and that is one of my regrets with the president's very great inaugural speech, that in the 4 priority areas, Galamsey, the environment, did not appear. The greatest single existential threat, and here I disagree with our Tari, it's not about unemployment. It's about the environmental crisis that we are facing out of Galamsey that is posing an existential threat to us. One, already several UN organizations have flagged the potential or the actual danger that Galamsey is posing to Ghana and West Africa. 2, there are tensions between Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire as to how Galamsey is poisoning their waters. Number 3 relates to the organized criminal networks that are stealing most of the 8 tons of gold produced in Ghana. We are only getting about 1.5 tons, thereabouts. Okay, so we need to come back very quickly to do a hierarchy of the most important things. Galamsey is mentioned twice in the social contract. I think points 9 and 13 or 23. I'm not too sure, but it's mentioned twice. Okay, so we need to understand that the challenges facing this government are immense. Already the energy is out there. Okay, so what we are looking for is a leadership, a team driven by knowledge.
Okay.
The economy, the security challenges must have people leading it that have the capacity not to just accept what our partners tell us. I mean, there's been this rather annoying set of statements over the last couple of years that, oh, the terrorists are coming down south. Coming down south to where? Okay? And that even in trying to understand what our security challenges are, people were looking first and foremost at their own pecuniary interest. So we need people who can be tough, who can do the analysis, and who can ensure that we place Ghana as the fulcrum, or Ghana's interest as the fulcrum.
Thank you, Prof.
I mean, quite interesting point being shared. But I want to ask you two gentlemen, if you look at how BRICS is gaining ground, I mean, just recently, more countries have joined than the original countries that came together to form BRICS. And if you listen to President Mahama, where he quoted the GDP of BRICS and G7, even though we operate with a non-alignment, at this point of our development, wouldn't anyone recommend that probably we look at BRICS to be part of the alliance, or wouldn't it make sense to try to align to any of these sides?
Well, I want to be very Pan-Africanist in this, answer this. We have started the Africa Continental Free Trade.
Free trade, yes.
This free trade area is humongous in terms of the opportunity that is going to happen. You don't hear a lot of traction going there in terms of how do we really roll it out? What is the strategy for each African country to really leverage on this particular initiative? And so I see BRICS as a bit of a distraction from our focus.
Okay.
Which is the after?
Of the after. And I'll explain that. Today, if Ghana or most African countries, and Prof will bear me out on this, is to engage that trade. Let's take Ghana, for example. If it is cashew to the market, the Indians are the ones that are going in 90% of the several billions of dollars you're going to have. They're Indians. And they're part of BRICS. If you were to look at, mention a commodity, sugar, that would depend on the maize, mention any commodity. These are all billions and billions of dollars. But it is not in the control of the Africans. This is not just Ghana, but all over, with the exception of Egypt, Tunisia, and other people who were Morocco.
Yeah.
So the question you need to ask is, brilliant opportunity, how do we leverage it? How do you structure your economy so that you produce the type of commodities that are very, very key and important for you to create wealth out of it, based on this market which is being established? Let me take our mind back to why I said food sovereignty.
Yeah.
When we are under colonial rule in just after 1950s and 60s, as soon as we gain our independence, before we gain our independence, we were producing enough for ourselves and to feed our colonial powers.
Yeah.
We had food sufficiency in Ghana. And at the same time, we were creating food sufficiency in United Kingdom. Yeah. But soon after independence, we lost our food sufficiency. And then our colonial powers, what did they do? They established the European Union, subsidizing agricultural program, something like that, and tilted everything. And then we are left to be selling cash crops. Cash crops for what? To feed their interest, their chocolates and coffee,
their industry,
and so on.
Yeah.
So then you take a cash crop. That actually then you have to spend so much money. You have to spend so much money to try and meet the standards that they require. To the point that your margins of profit reduces. This is all economic imperialism.
Okay.
And that structures have not changed in our global market. So when Prof said, you need a team that really can do such thorough analysis of what we need to have as a country to leverage on the enormous opportunity that we generate within Africa ourselves. BRICS could be, you can have a partnership relation with BRICS, and you can set up a foreign relations strategy and say, okay, I'm going to have an MOU with BRICS, and this is the way I'm going to engage BRICS. But I don't need to join BRICS.
Okay.
I will focus on African Continental Free Trade Area agreement and really determine which commodities should I be known for, in addition to cocoa in the country. And I think you have your maize, you have your cashew, you have others that we can really grow.
You have rice.
You have rice. You have, that you can really grow. And you have a geolocational space that you can really structure a very strong human capital strategy through your education to provide the competencies and skills that foreign direct investors need and make Ghana the manufacturing hub and the distribution hub. Control the supply chain, control the value chain of these commodities. What prevents you from doing that? In this time, we have no excuse. We have the energy, we have the brains, we just must be intentional, disciplined, and courageous. I believe that.
You mentioned after, and you've spoken a lot about leveraging the opportunities there, but I also know that there are so many challenges in terms of infrastructure, the differences in tariffs in the various countries, so many reasons why we are not as successful as we ought to be. Do you think we can do without BRICS and the other world powers, the G7? Do you think that, given that you've said that billions of dollars can come from there, do you think we can do without it if we focus on fixing the gaps that exist within AfTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, so that we can, leverage, because there's so many opportunities there that we can thrive on without aligning with whether BRICS or G7. Are we able to do that?
I don't think the issue should be, the question is, can we do without? No, because globalization is is a reality. We will need to engage others. Yeah. So it's about determining your partnership strategy. So African continent must determine partnership strategy, with BRICS, with G7, with G20, and we have to do that because things are shifting. Whoever controls the supply chain would actually control the value. And what is happening now is that we have the energy on our side, we have the human capital on our side in terms of the youthfulness of our population, and we have the land on our side for even producing enough for ourselves and for manufacturing. Okay. And we have, when we strengthen our 21st century skills, we skill our human capital, we should be able to engage in a digital economy. So I think that they have something, they are looking at Africa. Let me tell you, the G7 has an African strategy. Why would they do that? Why would the G20 have a bespoke strategy how they deal with the issue of Africa? Why would they do that? At the same time, developed countries within the G7 has individual African strategies as well. Why would the White House have an African
Because Africa is the source of their raw material.
Exactly, and it matters. You know, and it's all about power relations. And you need to understand these geopolitical power relations and ask yourself, what do you want to do? And that's why I feel that the goodwill we have today, we have to leverage it with a very strong geopolitical foreign policy that will enable us to stand on our feet. When we stand on our feet, then the Black Star will happen. That's how you bring others along. But for now, we have to be very intentional.
Dr. Prof. Senin, speaks about the fact that a minister told him there's no policy which is dictating our international relations. At what point in the life of this government should they have that policy to tell Ghanaians and all of you who are experts in this field how serious this government is to take Ghana from where it is today to the next level where we have to be?
I would answer this question very straightforward. As soon as a minister is appointed, you should kickstart doing all this analysis, bring the minds, as Professor Nia said, bring them together, let them have an holistic look at Africa, the world, and what it means to Ghana. And let's structure a very strategic policy framework that should guide our engagement. And that shouldn't be difficult to do. This could be done within 10 days, 2 weeks. I mean, well, because we know the answers and we know where we are going. It has to. It is not as though that we don't have the answers here. You put the right minds together, you can frame this, and once that is framed, it has to be institutionalized, and every member of diplomatic, settings or a member of the foreign service need to really accustom themselves to this foreign policy and make sure that it then translates into strategic actions in each of the diplomatic spots where we put people. So the ambassador in Washington, D.C. is going to deal with the World Bank, would take this policy, translate it into how do we strategically engage the World Bank, different from what we have done before. How do we strategically engage the White House, different from what we have done before? How do you strategically engage the members of the diplomatic corps who we want to do international trade with, who are Africans within the Washington DC, or they are in Europe or whatever, different from what we've done? We have to, if we show such seriousness, people will begin to look at us very differently.
But if it's that easy, then why really?
It took the wind out of my sails.
Have we not been?
Why are we here discussing this at this point?
I don't know the reasons why, but I would imagine that over time we've become very used to the fact that we are Ghanaians and we are the Black Star, we are African leaders. So we turn up ECOWAS, people must give us a seat. Until Rwanda turns up, African Union, people must give, until Rwanda turns up, Tanzania turns up, and then now you have Botswana, and then you have, so, and all the other countries, are becoming strong economically, powerfully, and it shows up in their engagement in the UN Security Council. It also shows up in the engagement in the G7 group of 77 in Africa and China in the United Nations, and it shows up in the engagement in ECOSOC and all the organs of the 9 nations. And then when you begin to hear that, this so-and-so individual of a particular African country is now the Under-Secretary General for this, Under-Secretary General for that, and you and Ghana, we've lost, since Kofi Annan, we begin to lose all our representation in most of these strategic places. It just tells you that we became very complacent, and we thought maybe it's on a little bit of arrogance was in us. Things have changed. Things have changed. But thank God that we have a situation where the goodwill is coming back. So now we have to be more intentional about it.
Because if you keep losing all of these strategic people in strategic places like you've mentioned, of course you should then be alert that something is not right.
Look at our leadership across the United Nations system. How many Under-Secretary Generals do we have? I don't remember. Maybe Assistant Secretary General, since Dr. Emily Chambers left, we've lost a spot in Under-Secretary General position. Wow. Whereas we have 5 or so in Senegal, we have Tanzania, we have others. I mean, You have a WTO led by Nigeria. Now, tell me. So there's a lot for us to think about. And it's not as though we don't have the human capital. We do. We do have people.
Let me just ask, and I'm curious to know, we started about talking about Mahama's goodwill and all that, and I stand corrected. So does the coming of Mahama, should I say the second coming of Mahama, improved our ratings in the geopolitical space and what we could achieve in terms of ratings? Has it improved? I know it's still early days, but has John Mahama done anything just by becoming the president now, done anything to improve our ratings and where we stand in the geopolitical space?
I mean, international relations is all about perception, you know. So
it's good for us? So
you see, the ratings will start going up immediately. And I've heard some vibes coming from other countries saying, hey, you know, congratulations for good to have John Mahama back. And so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean,
for me, it's good news.
And if you know him personally, and I have had the privilege to know him quite personally, not know him personally, but privilege to work with him on close proximity around some of the international relations. He's a very intelligent man. He understands the issues. He's very thorough in his thinking, in his analysis, which is why he continued to maintain the chairmanship of TANA and provide the leadership at such very important institution. So he has the respect, he commands that respect, and he listens. He listens quite well. He's also very charming, so it's all part of the charismatic nature is also part of diplomacy. That will help. Now, this has to be translated into action.
Yes.
And I think that's where the challenge is for him.
But really, someone just says we must go beyond our non-aligned foreign policy slogan. You feel so?
I think we should. We should go along non-aligned foreign.
So we should align.
No, I'm not saying we should align. We should. The fact that you don't use it does not mean you align. We must be more intentional and focus on partnership.
Okay.
You have to be, because yes, there are in partnership in looking at different entities. So yes, you partner with ECOWAS, much different way than you have partnership with individual countries of ECOWAS.
But does the non-aligned policy we operate prevent us from entering into partnerships with any of these?
No, it doesn't at all.
Okay,
it doesn't. You just non-align in your thinking. But there are situations where you also have to be aligned on particular issues. For example, we have to be aligned on an international cooperation framework across our West African region for peace and security. We must be aligned in that.
So should we be reviewing that policy, our non-aligned? Should we review it or keep it and go beyond, look further?
I think the world has changed. Yeah. And as I said, that political poles have, power relations have changed. I wouldn't say that, China can compete with the US, but there are tensions there. There are tensions there. Yeah. And as a result, because of the way things are changing, and mostly driven by economic power and the realities of the 21st century, which is going to, with artificial intelligence and all that's going to change the way people organize. Power relations are also going to be changed because supply chains and value chains are going to change. So you need to understand these things. And this is why it's important that you review some of these policies that you have. Even if you don't change the policies, it's important to interrogate the question. I mean, is it still relevant? Is it still appropriate to context?
Does it serve as well?
Does it serve as well? And and the issue of Ghana, well, I mean, I don't want to quote Trump, but Ghana first is extremely important. We have to focus on ourselves, how we build ourselves and how we engage the rest of the world, so that Ghana will have a unique identity and a unique brand. Some countries do. Do we have it?
It's been very insightful. Or you have some more?
Just about wrapping up, and we're talking about Ghana's, role in international geopolitics. We know that our immediate past Foreign Affairs Minister, Shirley Ayoko-Boche, is the General Secretary for the Commonwealth League of Nations, right? The Commonwealth, really. How can that also become a catalyst for Ghana's effort to take its place on the international geopolitical terrain?
I think we have to understand that Commonwealth is Commonwealth. The fact that you have a Ghanaian leading it does not mean that Commonwealth she will be able to sway Commonwealth interests and opportunities to Ghana. But it's significant in the sense that it's Ghanaian actually leading it.
Yeah.
Now, it is up to His Excellency the President to sit down with them and say, how can I leverage who you are for the benefit of my country? And a lot of people, I remember in the Secretary's office when Donald Trump was elected and came in, and his team that came, the conversation we had was very transactional. And you ask yourself, this is a big person, this is a big country in a Security Council, and they are seeking their personal interest. One would expect that, this is United States, so in the Security Council, I can do what I want. But they were very intentional. They were extremely intentional about what they want to draw out of the United Nations system.
Yeah.
And I think it's
that's a sort of mentality we should be having.
We should have that mentality now, because things have changed. And, let's all be one in ECOWAS, and it's not going to serve our interests if we don't state our personal interests to know what exactly we want and what value we bring to that relationship. Okay. We must always think that way.
Interesting.
Dr. Dodu, I feel like I understand geopolitics all over again just by engaging you.
Someone says, your morning show today has been outstanding so far. Very educated. Professor Enning and Dr. Dodu, fantastic discussion. Then he says, we've lived in our past glory because of weak intra-African quality competition in all fronts since the year 2000. My name is Enoch Kojo Apia, former DC for Shama in the Western region.
Thank you for that.
Very humbling.
Very, very.
Thank you so much. Well, Dr. Ishmael Ni Amano Dodu is former senior UN diplomat, Executive Office of UN Secretary General and UNDP Africa Bureau. Thank you so much. And we also had joining us via Zoom Professor Kwesi Enin, who is a security consultant providing bespoke services. And that ends it for this belt of conversation. But before we go, a gentle reminder about Soul Lagoon View Estate, a development of the luxury emerald properties. And they have some great news for all homeowners, residents, and all their clients. They are thrilled to announce that their loyal clients can enjoy their original prices this festive season. Imagine waking up in a serene, gated community with top-notch infrastructure, secure documentation, and exciting recreational facilities available. Join this happy family by purchasing the few service plots available. And they have optional packages for your own dreams, your dream house, architecture, designing, getting permits, and even helping you with your boundary wall. How do you locate them or contact them? Call them 0201-873-799. Soul Lagoon View Estate, your health and recreational heaven. Stay with us. We are back with more action on the AM show. Welcome back to the show, folks. Let's now talk about the Batu project, Adam the First. In the studio with me to discuss this is Bex. And Bex Morty is his full name, but he's also an in-stool chief, but he likes to go by the name Bex. He's an actor, producer, and casting director. Also in the studio with me this morning is Akofa Ejani. I like to call her Auntie Akofa. She's an actor, producer, and cultural activist. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Auntie Akofa, I want to start with you. Tell us a bit about this Batu project, Adam the First. Where did it all come from?
I think Bex should take
Bex.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bex.
so it all comes from the mind of a brilliant young director, writer called M. Saibu. He's a Ghanaian-American ex-serviceman, and he wrote this science fiction film delving into a genre that we usually, or maybe even never, go into as Ghanaian filmmakers.
So it's a science fiction?
Yes, it's a science fiction film.
Can you give us just a little more brief in terms of what's the storyline, what's there to look forward to?
Okay, you see how we're destroying Mother Earth? and anything could happen. Can you imagine if there was a nuclear war and they started bombing everywhere? Earth is going to collapse. And so as Africa doesn't have as many nuclear weapons, her honor, our chief in the film decides that the African countries should come together and send yours truly into space in an all-encompassing human knowledge AI vessel to a new planet to restart humanity.
Wow. Before we even talk about the Miami Film Festival and all that, I want to find out from you, Nsakofa, was this different from all the other projects you've worked on?
Well,
and what was the difference?
The difference is the technology that has to go into creating all the fiction, science fiction stuff, you know. So it makes it really interesting. I'm sorry, I have a bad.
No, it's okay.
So it made it really very interesting.
Okay.
You know?
Did you?
And this is not a large cast, and so working together was fun and interesting. Yes.
Okay. I understand there's some relationship there in terms of the Miami Science Fictional Film Festival. Tell us about that, Rex.
So the Miami International Science Fiction Film Festival is the biggest science fiction film festival in the world. It's #1. And for us to first foray into this genre and be recognized and accepted even into that science fiction film festival is a huge honor.
Huge. Yeah.
And beyond that, the film has been nominated for its top honor, which is the Beacon Award. And the Beacon Award is won by countries rather than the individual film. So if we should win the film, we would be bringing the loot to Ghana.
So Ghana would have won, and not the producer or the director.
In particular.
So it's really a big deal. You know, I'm hoping that would win. And even if we don't, the mere fact that it's been nominated to that highest point is already a win for Ghana. And that's why I keep saying that we do need to prioritize our industry, and more support and funding has to go to this sector, because it does a lot of things, you know. It's one of the things we can use as soft power. Cultural diplomacy. I heard Dr. Dodu talking about economic diplomacy. What he didn't add, I mean, I totally agree with him that what I think he should have added was the cultural diplomacy, which makes it easier for the economic diplomacy to thrive.
You're really right.
Yeah, so we do need cultural attaches in our embassies. We don't have. Ghana doesn't have a cultural attache in any of our embassies. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
And so to be able to achieve that economic diplomacy, you first need your cultural diplomacy that fosters good relations among the nations, educational, it includes the economic.
It does.
And so there's a lot we can do if we have a vibrant industry and we have our cultural attaches all over to use that soft power for us to gain the economic diplomacy we are looking for.
Thank you. Rex, was this difficult, considering that it's not something we are used to, science fiction?
Yeah, very, very difficult.
Talk to me about what the challenges were in terms of production, casting, and even directing the people in an unfamiliar territory.
Yeah, it took us 5 years to do this film.
5 years?
Yeah. #1, because we pay attention to detail. We're not about just competing here in Ghana. We want to compete globally. You know, as she's saying, we want to make an impact on the international stage, so people recognize Ghana. Secondly, you know, the terrain and getting the technology and getting all of that, because the whole film was done by Ghanaians from top to bottom, every single part of it.
Including manning the technology that creates all the science fiction effects?
All of that.
That's impressive.
All of that was done. And that takes time. And then in the middle of all of it, COVID came in. And threw a spanner in our works.
Yeah.
So that also delayed us. We had some problems as well with certain bodies as well, but all of that took...
Certain bodies?
Yes, you know, like we were part of the presidential pitch, And that gave us, that delayed us a little bit.
Okay.
So all of those things took time. And you know, working in this, in Africa is difficult. You know, you have a lot of hurdles to go over, but you know, elsewhere it is easier. You ask someone to do something, you give them a deadline, they do it by that deadline. This one you start begging and all of that kind of stuff. So
challenges aside, what was the highlights for you in terms of the filmmaking process? I'm sure there must be something that really...
one moment that stood out for myself and Saibu, which was, I was in the costume, we were walking and a young boy just turned around and saw me in the costume, and the amazement on his face, he was just so shocked. And for us, that was the biggest thing ever, because we want to do this film to inspire young people to want to think they can do greater things as Africans.
I'm sure we'll be able to bring you some excerpts of that film, so keep watching, don't go away.
Yeah.
Auntie Akofa, I want to find out from you as well in terms of highlights. And you are lead character? You're the chief?
No, Shoko played the lead.
Okay, so you are the chief.
The chief of the council.
Yes.
Okay.
The head of the council.
Please tease us a bit in terms of what your character was about and if it was even challenging for you to play that role.
Oh, well, my character was, as I said, the head of the council that makes the final decisions about sending them to go outer space to help find a new planet so we can save humanity, you know. For me, playing that role, it's not such a big role, but I was really happy doing it. The rate at which we are not paying attention to planet Earth, even Ghana.
Yeah.
Look at what we've done with our water bodies with the galamsey thing. So if all the fish die, and it's seeping into the ground, we are not going to have good food.
Yeah.
I mean, so we are literally just going to be dying off because you don't have water, you don't have fish, your foodstuff is going to go bad.
Yeah.
There's pollution everywhere. That is killing of humanity one day at a time. And so even though this is fiction, it could happen.
Yeah.
It could happen if we don't start changing our ways. And so, of course, film is one of the biggest and most useful tools to use to get some of these messages across. So I was super excited to play the role.
How can we help?
Oh, I mean, the thing is, this is a huge opportunity for the corporates to get involved, to get the names out, attached to how Ghana is seen on an international platform like the Miami International Science Fiction Film. So, corporate Ghana can come on board. There are ways in which, if you're really interested in pushing us, we could show you the film, you know.
Also, it's not available for us to see yet?
It's not available yet.
Okay.
We're looking at perhaps in March bringing it for release here.
Okay.
But if you want a preview of it, and on Saturday, we're having the Ocean Dig.
Ooh.
So anyone who wants to can get in touch with me. My number.
My hand is up.
Your hand is up.
I'm really curious to see it. Yeah.
You can reach us on our social media. Look for Adam the First on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. Otherwise, you can call me 0244 317773.
Please take it again.
0244 317773.
Okay.
And we can talk about how we can collaborate and make things happen.
And Sakofa, I'll give you the final word. You can invite corporate Ghana people to view and all that. Anything you want to say to our audience?
It's a good way for them to increase the exposure for their branding to be associated with it. I mean, it's a good film. And so if you're associated with it...
It is because you're in it.
Oh, thank you. You know, and we do need the support, honestly. We do need the support. So I'm calling on corporate Ghana, philanthropists, individuals that really like to see us push Ghanaian film to the highest to come and support us.
Thank you so much for coming. I wish you the very best. We'll be looking out for it. I'm not sure if we have the video ready yet, but maybe in the course of the our subsequent bulletins, we can show you a bit of it. But also join us in the studio to get into this conversation, Bex. He's an actor, producer, casting director, and of course, Akofa Ejiani, actor, producer, and cultural activist. We're talking about the film, the Bantu Project, Adam the... What inspired the name, the Bantu Project, Adam the First?
Bantu stands for Bio-Artificial Terraforming Unit. So that was the project that...
So it's an abbreviation of all that.
Yes. And then the first that they sent was Adam.
Ah,
so that's
he's Adam the first to go out to space from Ghana, I guess.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. And do stay, because there's a lot more action coming your way in a few minutes before we wrap up the show. You're watching the AM show. We're back in a bit. You're still watching the AM show, and right before we wrap up, we do want to give you the chance to have your say. The phone line's on your screen, so call us and share your thoughts with us. But how was today?
It's been splendid. I've loved the discussions that we've had on the show. I hope that people will pick them up. And look, to hear that we don't even have a policy, a foreign policy document, is mind-boggling. We've been in the Fourth Republic for how many years?
Yeah.
So long.
Over 32
How can it be that we don't have a foreign policy document? We should have it. Something that gives direction. If you appoint an ambassador and he or she is going into a negotiation, what really direct his or her path? You shouldn't say you're leaving it to the person. We should approach things in a united front, and I hope that we can really take it up.
Right. So let's engage our callers. Hello. Thank you for joining us. What's on your mind?
Good morning.
Good morning. What's your name first?
My name is Abdul Gani Mankargo, calling you from Daboya Mankargo constituency in the Savannah region.
Okay.
Hi, Abdul.
Good morning to you, and good morning to your viewers out there. And my senior brother, I enjoy your program always. We have done with our elections. Swearing in has been done. Change of government has come. We are looking forward to see how things will go for Mother Ghana.
Okay.
But let's put this on record that immediately a president took over, you shouldn't have anything to blame other past governments. That is why the people of this country voted change, voted for you to take over, to do whatever you think you will do to help the people of this country, whatever you think that you were promising, telling the good people of this country that if they give you the mandate, you can achieve. So now, we are appealing to our senior brother and uncle, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. There is no time for complaint.
Okay.
There is no time for blaming game.
I think they've made a point that, I mean, this morning when we had a chat with the NDC rep, it says they have moved in to provide solution. They are not just about complaining. So I think that the focus is not about them complaining, but they wanted to inform Ghanaians as to what is there. But thanks for your thought.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abdul. And thank you all for staying with us on the AM show. That's our show for today, Thursday. And of course, we're back on your screens tomorrow for the Friday edition of the AM show.
Okay, all right then. I'm looking forward to how tomorrow will be. But thanks for your company. We pray that we'll meet you again, God willing, tomorrow. But remember to just go onto my Joe Online for more of the news and information. I'm Sweetie Abochi. And I'm Samuel Kojo Brace for Stina Safa, as she calls it. Yeah. It's happening with News Desk.